Chapter 714. In 5 years at most, the entire Tiannan would belong to Zhongzhou state. Since the emergence of Tiannan in Southeast Asia, no one had ever said something like that. There was no doubt that this was the most powerful promise, and the one that Zhongzhou state most wanted to hear. Li Tianlan's voice was very calm. He didn't pretend to be excited, but everyone could hear his lofty sentiments and lofty aspirations in his words. It was almost absolute confidence. No one dared to ignore this. And now Li Tianlan himself was no longer a figure that could be ignored. Marshal Li, are you really confident? Just as Li Tianlan's voice fell, when everyone was still thinking, Prime Minister Chen Fangqing of Zhongzhou state had already sat up straight, looked at Li Tianlan, and asked seriously. His eyes were very solemn, with a touch of undisguised expectation. Li Tianlan glanced at him and felt a little emotional. He had heard of Chen Fangqing's character, but he did not expect that the other party's response would be so straightforward. The 9 directors of Zhongzhou state's parliament could be said to be the 9 pillars of Zhongzhou state today, and each of them deserved respect. But in detail, Chen Fangqing could be said to be the most simple person. The position of prime minister could be said to be well-deserved. Wan Qingyun, who was in charge of the supervision of Zhongzhou state, and Ji Wenzhang, who was in charge of the party affairs of Zhongzhou state, were the 2 directors of the Southeast Group. Because the Wang family of Beihai was too powerful. Although these 2 were the leaders of the Southeast Group, they often had to consider the interests of Beihai province and the will of the Wang family of Beihai. President Li Huaqing and Hua Zhengyang, who met for the first time in Zhongzhou state, were also under great pressure. As the leaders of the academics, the 2 could even be said to be the most stressed of the 9 directors. Compared with the deep-rooted Prince Group and the Southeast Group, the academics was just a group that rose in recent decades. It was a typical representative of grassroots origin with a serious lack of foundation. In the beginning, it could be said that it was completely supported by Li Huaqing's charm. 7 years as president, 5 years as a director, and 3 years as a member of parliament. All in all, Li Huaqing had been in the central system of Zhongzhou state for less than 20 years, which was also the fastest development of the academics. Now Li Huaqing was approaching the age of retirement, but the scale of the academics was still slightly inferior to that of the Prince Group. Li Huaqing needed to consider the overall situation of Zhongzhou state, but he also needed to consider the survival of the academics after his retirement, so sometimes it was inevitable that he would be in a dilemma. Department head Zhou Yunhai, who represented the Northern Bloc, could be said to be extremely neutral. The Northern Bloc was the weakest, so Zhou Yunhai kept an extremely low profile. He only quietly guarded his own bloc and went with the flow. The giant group could be said to be the largest of the 6 groups, but the largest did not have the strongest cohesion, so that the giant group had always been extremely bloated. In the past few years, it was Zhou Mulin who had been supporting the overall situation. Although Dongqing Wudi had been a counselor for many years, he had only been a director for a short time. At present, he was in the process of controlling the army headquarters by force, so he did not make much noise about things outside the army headquarters for the time being. Chairman Guo Wentian of the Prince Group could be said to be the real leader of the Prince Group. Although his ranking was behind Chen Fangqing, he coordinated most of the internal affairs of the group. And Prime Minister Chen Fangqing, there was no doubt that he came from the Prince Group, but most of the time, his style of doing things did not have too many traces of the group. Chen Fangqing was majestic and extremely fair. During his 7 years as prime minister, he rarely got angry with harsh words. But every time the prime minister got angry, it was enough to shock the whole Zhongzhou state. In 7 years, the prime minister had personally killed 6 senior officials at the governor-general level, and 2 of them were actually from the Prince Group. This kind of justice often made people subconsciously ignore his position. In the case that the Prince Group had Guo Wentian, most of the time his eyes fell on the overall situation of Zhongzhou state, and what he protected was the interests of the whole Zhongzhou state. No matter how much Li Tianlan disliked the Prince Group, he could not hate Chen Fangqing. He nodded and said seriously, "I can guarantee it." "Where does Marshal Li's confidence come from?" Guo Wentian said with a smile, without any anger in his tone. "I think the hidden ones who appeared on the battlefield can explain part of the problem," Li Tianlan said calmly. In the following time, I will take over part of the power of the Samsara Palace and the Purgatory of Heaven capital, which can also explain part of the problem. And I have reached an agreement with the Wang family of Beihai. The Wang family of Beihai feels obliged to contribute to the consolidation of the border forces of Zhongzhou State. Mrs. Wang personally promised to support part of the armaments and some economic support of Emperor Dong's palace. In addition, the Wang family of Beihai will build a military airport and a gene potion laboratory in Tiannan in the near future, and these will become part of Emperor Dong's palace. Li Tianlan continued. His voice was still very soft, but every word he said was like a clap of thunder, causing everyone's ears to buzz. The appearance of the Hidden Ones could indeed explain a lot of problems. But Li Tianlan was about to take over the Samsara Palace, and a part of the Purgatory, which no one was sure about at the moment. In fact, no one could guarantee how much power the Samsara Palace had left with the fall of the Master of Samsara Palace, and whether it would accept Li Tianlan's leadership. However, the high-profile saint and knight who joined the Samsara Palace, and today's Hidden Ones, could already explain Li Tianlan's leadership in the Samsara Palace. The Purgatory of Heaven capital, a superpower that had just risen in recent years, could be said to be the product of the Li family's nirvana rebirth. Now Li Honghe died, Li Guangtu was seriously injured, and another invincible realm expert, Daybreak, was not even sure whether he was alive or dead. At this time, it would not be difficult for Li Tianlan to attack the Purgatory of Heaven capital. There was no doubt that he could take over a part of the Purgatory of Heaven capital. The question was, how big was the so-called part? And the Wang family of Beihai? Armaments support, economic support, the establishment of a military airport, and even the core gene potion laboratory of the Wang family of Beihai would be set up in Tiannan, and belong to Li Tianlan. Wan Qingyun and Ji Wenjiang's faces instantly became extremely ugly. There was no doubt that this was the harvest of Li Tianlan's trip to Beihai. This trip not only made the Wang family of Beihai lose an invincible realm expert, but also pressed the neck of the Wang family of Beihai to make summer solstice lower her head. The harvest that Li Tianlan said was destined to be a part of it. They didn't dare to think or even ask what the Wang family of Beihai had to pay secretly. The most important thing is, Li Tianlan's voice continued, within 5 years I will definitely enter the invincible realm. At that time, I will be in Tiannan and accept the challenge of all the invincible realm experts in the dark world. Everyone's face changed slightly. 5 years later, Li Tianlan would only be 27 years old. A 27-year-old invincible realm expert, and not an ordinary invincible realm expert. Now Li Tianlan could crush the invincible realm experts on the holy list without breaking through. Once he broke through the current realm, he might not need to stabilize his realm at all, and he could have the combat capability no less than the peak of the invincible realm. Such a Tiannan, such a Emperor Dong's palace. At this moment, even Hua Zhengyang, the leader of the academics, flashed a trace of fear in his eyes, not to mention Guo Wentian, Ji Wenjiang and others. And Gu Xingyun, His Highness Gu Xingyun, who had been threatened by Li Tianlan with force in the meeting and had lost all his face, looked pale at this time. Everyone, I'm saying this to tell the parliament that the future of Emperor Dong's palace is worth looking forward to. Today's Emperor Dong's palace is very young, but it doesn't mean that we are weak. Specifically, in Tiannan we have invincible realm experts, invincible realm combat capability, rich talent echelons, strong economic strength, advanced weapons and equipment. Emperor Dong's palace has everything it should have. We already have all the basic conditions to control Tiannan. The only thing we need is time. Li Tianlan's voice paused, and then he continued. Maybe there is support from all of you. What does Marshal Li want? It was Chen Fangqing again. The Prime Minister of Zhongzhou State didn't seem to see Gu Xingyun's pale face and Guo Wentian's dissatisfied eyes at all. He asked straightforwardly. Prime Minister, you don't have to be so polite. I can't afford to be called Marshal Li. In the future, my energy must be focused on Tiannan. My energy is limited, and I can't deal with too many things of Zhongzhou State's military and special warfare system for the time being. So I'm here to make a request. I request to resign from the position of Marshal of Zhongzhou State's Special Warfare System and Commander of the Snowdance Corps. Li Tianlan shook his head and said in a flat tone. Chen Fangqing was stunned. Everyone was stunned. No one expected that Li Tianlan would resign at this time. He not only gave up the leadership of the Snowdance Corps, but also the position of marshal. Although marshal was only a military rank, in Tiannan, it was a higher military rank than the commander of the Freedom Corps. This also meant that even if Li Tianlan didn't hold any position, he could use the name of marshal to control the Freedom Corps at critical moments. But thinking of the relationship between Li Tianlan and Ning Ziyuan, it really didn't matter whether he wanted the rank of marshal or not. Chen Fangqing thought for a while, turned to look at Gu Xingyun, and asked, "Your Highness Gu Xingyun, what do you think of this matter?" Gu Xingyun opened his mouth. The almost invisible sword intent completely enveloped his body in an instant. Li Tianlan's eyes swept over with a faint smile. Gu Xingyun gritted his teeth. After a long time he said word by word, "I agree with Comrade Li Tianlan's resignation. You can resign." Li Huaqing said slowly, "But Tianlan, according to the current performance of Emperor Dong's palace, it should be difficult for Zhongzhou State to give you enough support in a short time. What do you want?" "Order," Li Tianlan said calmly. "An order that can really guarantee the smooth operation of Emperor Dong's palace. I want the parliament to agree to the establishment of Xianyuan City in Emperor Dong's palace, and give necessary support. In addition, I want to recommend a rare talent to the parliament." He glanced at Ning Ziyuan, who was silent, and said slowly, "I hope Ning Qianqing can be the first mayor of Xianyuan City." He glanced at Gu Xingyun. Gu Xingyun's eyes seemed to be spewing fire. Li Huaqing raised his eyebrows slightly, and didn't speak for a while. "I agree." Dongqing Wudi said slowly, "I know Ning Qianqing. He is capable of being the mayor." Li Tianlan smiled and was about to speak when a steady voice suddenly sounded, "I disagree." Chen Fangqing. It was still Chen Fangqing. "Because of an emergency. This chapter doesn't have 8,000 words. I want it to last at least a week." Chapter 7:15. There was a flash of doubt in Li Tianlan's eyes. He glanced at Chen Fangqing. Chen Fangqing was also looking at him, smiling, and his eyes were full of calmness. Li Tianlan seemed to understand. He smiled and said nothing. "I agree to establish Xianyuan City in Tiannan." Chen Fangqing's voice was soft. "But Ning Qianqing, minister, has he been in the Border Control Corps before?" Dongqing Wudi lowered his eyelids and said lightly, "He was indeed in the Border Control Corps a few years ago. He is a very calm young man. He has been in the Sky Academy these years, and now he must be more mature than before." Chen Fangqing didn't seem to understand Dongqing Wudi's meaning at all. He just chuckled and said, "In that case, Ning Qianqing has always been a soldier. The situation in Tiannan is very complicated now, and the identity of Emperor Dong's palace is very sensitive. As the mayor, he has to coordinate all aspects. This is a very difficult test for Ning Qianqing. After all, he is still too young. I think we should send a more mature and steady mayor to Tiannan to handle things in Tiannan, while ensuring the interests of Emperor Dong's palace, and prepare for 5 years later." 5 years later. That was the time when Li Tianlan promised that Tiannan would completely belong to Zhongzhou State. Ning Ziyuan looked at Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan shook his head imperceptibly and said calmly, "Prime Minister, who is more suitable to be the mayor of Tiannan?" Chen Fangqing agreed to establish Xianyuan City for the sake of the overall situation of Zhongzhou State, but it didn't mean that the Prime Minister really appreciated Li Tianlan. The establishment of Xianyuan City could be said to be the biggest move that Zhongzhou State had made in Tiannan in more than 3 years. After all, Tiannan was not Zhongzhou State. It was a newly established system without a speaker, and the mayor was the real leader. But the whole Tiannan was the foundation of the province. Once the first mayor and the first governor returned, they were destined to enter the Zhongzhou State Parliament. And with Li Tianlan's full support, the MP who entered the parliament had at least an 80% chance of becoming a director of the parliament. In such a way, Tiannan already had the foundation of a large group. Once Ning Qianqing entered the parliament, he didn't even need to become a director. He could promote talents from Tiannan to various departments of Zhongzhou State on a large scale. This process might be long, but it was destined to be vigorous. And as Li Tianlan became more and more powerful, no one could stop the rise of the new group. Chen Fangqing wanted to see Tiannan become a part of Zhongzhou state, but he didn't want to see a new group in Zhongzhou state. In particular, this group was headed by Li Tianlan. Ning Qianqing could not. He would even oppose anyone who approached Li Tianlan. And from the bottom of his heart, Chen Fangqing was telling the truth. In his opinion, Ning Qianqing was indeed too young to handle the complicated situation in Tiannan. Sending a mature and steady mayor over was also responsible for the cause of Zhongzhou state. All kinds of thoughts kept flashing in Chen Fangqing's mind. Xianyuan City was undoubtedly the key to Tiannan. If Tiannan really became a province of Zhongzhou state in the future, Xianyuan City was destined to be the provincial capital of Tiannan. Looking at the whole Zhongzhou state, the leaders of provincial capital cities were all senior officials at the level of provincial councillors and deputy governors. Besides, they were often the first candidates for the position of the provincial government. He was the first mayor of Xianyuan City. In such a sensitive period, his rank was naturally no exception. Deputy governor rank. In the eyes of the giants at the top, this level was not an indispensable figure, but at least they would not be ignored. Among so many senior officials at the level of deputy governor in Zhongzhou state, it was very easy to find a few people with top-notch abilities. Not only the deputy governor rank, but also the second-level successors that the major groups worked hard to cultivate should also consider the possibility of promotion. The position of mayor of Tiannan could be said to be the most valuable position at the level of deputy governor in Zhongzhou state. Because as long as one held this position and gained a firm foothold in Tiannan, it was equivalent to holding a ticket directly to the Zhongzhou state parliament. The price to pay for this ticket was also very high. If the person holding this position was not one of Li Tianlan's people, it meant offending Li Tianlan. But compared with the identity of a councillor and offending Li Tianlan, the former was undoubtedly much more important. And even if he was not one of Li Tianlan's people, he could still cooperate with Li Tianlan in his work in Tiannan. Chen Fangqing straightened out the relationship in the shortest time possible. In such a sensitive position, it was necessary to have top abilities in all aspects, but also enough to not be afraid of Li Tianlan, or even Li Tianlan's background in the future. Only in this way could he keep Li Tianlan in check in Tiannan. In this way, there would be a lot less such candidates. Chen Fangqing immediately recalled the people in the prince group who met this condition. Just when he had already identified the candidates, he suddenly saw Li Tianlan's eyes. Li Tianlan was looking at him, his eyes gently fluctuating, and he seemed to be smiling. In an instant, Chen Fangqing's whole heart suddenly sank. The moment he met this gaze, he suddenly felt cold all over. Chen Fangqing hesitated for a moment. He had no time to think about it carefully, so he gave up this rare place instinctively. He turned his head and glanced at Wang Qingyun, the vice president of Zhongzhou state, and said with a smile, "When it comes to suitable candidates, the first one I think of is Comrade Wang Jingxin, the speaker of Linen. This comrade has a high theoretical level, strong practical working ability, and outstanding prestige in Linen. He has the overall situation, and is good at dealing with complex situations. I think it is very suitable, even the most suitable, to let Wang Jingxin go to Tiannan." He glanced at Li Tianlan out of the corner of his eye. Li Tianlan still had a faint smile on his face, but there was a touch of sarcasm in it. Chen Fangqing subconsciously clenched his fists, took a deep breath, and kept smiling. Everyone had a thoughtful look on their faces. Indeed, Wang Jingxin, the speaker of Linen, was really the most suitable candidate at present. Letting him go to Tiannan could be regarded as an explanation to both the giant group and Li Tianlan. At least, not to mention Dongqing Wudi, at least the possibility of Zhou Mulan's opposition was very small. Wang Jingxin had enough ability and the top background. As the core of the next generation of the Wang family of Beihai, Wang Tianzong was very optimistic about the next generation of the Wang family of Beihai. In the future, Wang Jingxin's status in the Wang family of Beihai would be like that of Zhongzhou State Councillor Wang Qinglei in the Wang family of Beihai. Such a background would not make him afraid of Li Tianlan. Moreover, his ability was not only to deal with the complex situation in Tiannan, but also to play with Li Tianlan in Tiannan. Everyone present was very confident about Wang Jingxin's means. Even if he could not take advantage of Li Tianlan, at least he would not suffer a loss. Moreover, moving Wang Jingxin out of Jiangxia was tantamount to forcing the Wang family of Beihai to give up Linen. At the very least, it was tantamount to greatly relieving the pressure of Governor Zhou Yuanshan of Jiangxia. More than 20 years ago, Jiangxia was the base camp of the Li family. Over the years, Wu Jingmin had become more and more determined to defend Jiangxia. But he was in the Southeast Group, and Jiangxia had been infiltrated by the Southeast Group a lot. Among them, Wang Jingxin was the representative of the Wang family of Beihai in Jiangxia. Some time ago, Wu Jingmin entered the cabinet and became the vice prime minister, the next leader of the giant group, and Dongqing Wudi's son-in-law, Zhou Yuanshan, was transferred to Jiangxia as the governor. It seemed that he was going to take over. But Su Xinghe, the governor of Jiangnan, was transferred to Jiangxia as the speaker, which could also be regarded as the counterattack of the Wang family of Beihai. Now Jiangxia seemed to be calm, but the internal situation was turbulent. Zhou Yuanshan was suppressed by Su Xinghe, and Wang Jingxin was eyeing him covetously. He was under great pressure. At this time, if Wang Jingxin, who was as famous as Zhou Yuanshan, was transferred away, Su Xinghe would definitely not be able to resist Zhou Yuanshan. Jiangxia would be separated from the sphere of influence of the Wang family of Beihai. But Jiangxia, which belonged to the Li family, might fall back into the hands of the Li family with Zhou Yuanshan's ascension. But it was more likely to belong to the giant group. If Li Tianlan did not fight, he would feel sorry for Wu Jingmin and some old people who were loyal to the Li family. If he fought, he would destroy the relationship with the giant group. But at present, Li Tianlan was still close to the giant group. So transferring Wang Jingxin to relieve Zhou Yuanshan's pressure was still an explanation to Li Tianlan. The twists and turns in the middle were too complicated. Only a sophisticated person like Chen Fangqing could lock on Wang Jingxin at the first time. If this move succeeded, it would be more than killing 3 birds with 1 stone. Almost all aspects were compressing Li Tianlan's future development space. This was indeed a good thing. But only for Chen Fangqing. No. Without the slightest hesitation, Vice President Wan Qingyun of Zhongzhou State directly refused Chen Fangqing's proposal, and his voice was cold and hard. Wang Jingxin. He was cultivated by the Southeast Group and the Wang family of Beihai as the next standard bearer. A ticket to enter the parliament was very attractive to others, but for Wang Jingxin, it was destined. His end was not only to enter the parliament of Zhongzhou State, or even to become a director. From the beginning, he and Zhou Yuanshan and a few others were staring at the position of president. Now he was playing with Zhou Yuanshan and Lin An. Although he was not at ease, at least he was not at a disadvantage. To say the least, even if the Southeast Group really wanted to give up Jiangxia, Wang Jingxin could go to Jianghuai, Jiangnan, or Wuyue, where the power of the Southeast Group was deeply rooted. Go to Tiannan to play with Li Tianlan? Win. There was no benefit, and it would be worse if he lost. Why would Wang Jingxin jump into that pit of fire? Moreover, he refused Li Tianlan's face and wanted to send people to Tiannan. Did he really think that Li Tianlan was a clay bodhisattva without anger? This person was a raging fire. Perhaps the only benefit of Wang Jingxin going to Tiannan was that he could contain Li Tianlan's development to a certain extent, but the premise was that he had to stand firm under Li Tianlan's suppression. Even if he could achieve this goal, it was not what the Wang family of Beihai needed. Chen Fangqing's proposal was simply outrageous. Chen Fangqing narrowed his eyes slightly. At that moment, he exchanged a look with Li Huaqing again. The relationship between the Prince Group and the academics was not harmonious over the years. After all, Li Huaqing took over the position of president from the Prince Group. But in many cases, there was a rare tacit understanding between the president of Zhongzhou State and the prime minister of Zhongzhou State. It was no exaggeration to say that although Li Huaqing and Chen Fangqing had different positions, they were the best president and prime minister in Zhongzhou State in the past 100 years. Chen Fangqing looked at Li Huaqing. Li Huaqing's eyes were clear and indifferent. He nodded calmly. Chen Fangqing laughed. The transfer of cadres has always been subject to the organization. I think Wang Jingxin is a very good candidate. If he goes to Tiannan, it's a good thing. Comrade Qingyun, from the standpoint of Zhongzhou State, Don't you think Wang Jingxin is very suitable? The current situation in Jiangxia is also very critical. As for Linen, we can't do without comrade Wang Jingxin for the time being. If he goes to Tiannan now, Linen will be a little difficult. Ji Wenjiang smiled and also expressed his opposition. Chen Fangqing smiled indifferently. He and Li Huaqing had reached a tacit understanding. At this time, he didn't want to waste his breath at all. He said calmly, "If the council can't reach a consensus, I propose a vote." Vote. 9 council members. The minority followed the majority. As long as more than half of the 9 giants supported Wang Jingxin to go to Tiannan, the appointment would be considered passed. Wan Qingyun and Ji Wenjiang's faces suddenly changed, and their eyes became a little gloomy. There was no doubt that they saw determination from Chen Fangqing's look. The prince group was very strong, stronger than the academics and the giant group. But facing the southeast group alone, they had no advantage. At this time, Chen Fangqing confidently wanted to vote, which could only mean one thing. At that moment, they had reached a consensus with at least one of the academics or the giant group. Who was it? There was no need to think about it at all. The academics. It could only be the academics. Because compared with the giant group that fully supported Li Tianlan, the academics sometimes had a very subtle position. They were indeed dutiful allies, but only limited to allies. From the perspective of the academics, they preferred that Li Tianlan's peak position was supported by the academics and the giant group, not by Li Tianlan himself. Therefore, the academics certainly didn't want to see Li Tianlan establish his own group. But because they were allies, they couldn't oppose it. Wang Jingxin going to Tiannan was undoubtedly a good move. As long as Wang Jingxin went there, he and Li Tianlan would be entangled. It was impossible for the Wang family of Beihai to give up Wang Jingxin, the future leader, and they were bound to give him support. In this way, the contradiction between Li Tianlan and the Wang family of Beihai would continue to escalate. At that time, the Wang family of Beihai would naturally suppress Li Tianlan in all aspects. But now, how could Li Tianlan, who had already grown up, have no power to resist? If the Wang family of Beihai wanted to suppress Li Tianlan, they had to show their real strength. A large part of their energy was tied up by Li Tianlan. At that time, it would be more convenient for Zhongzhou state to take action against the Wang family of Beihai. Weakening the Wang family of Beihai and the Southeast group represented huge interests, which were related to the advancement and retreat of countless people, their future, their life and death, and their political lives. The giant group would definitely support Li Tianlan. In this way, the giant group and Li Tianlan, the Wang family of Beihai and Wang Jingxin. In the process of the game between the two sides, the giant group would definitely pay more attention to the academics' attitude, and the academics could also take advantage of this to get a lot of benefits. If there was no accident, Li Huaqing would retire after 3 years. He very much hoped to work for one more term, but if his plan failed before he retired, he must arrange a way out for the academics. The so-called way out, to put it bluntly, was to strengthen the strength of the academics and try to let more people of the academics take more positions. Because as he retired, the academics would inevitably encounter the joint oppression of several other groups. Even an ally like the giant group would not be polite at that time. If Li Huaqing did not arrange it well, the North group today might be the academics tomorrow. If Wang Jingxin was transferred to Tiannan, such a big opportunity, the academics would definitely gain a lot. At that time, even if he retired, the academics would have enough bargaining chips to compromise in the face of the joint forces of several other groups. Wan Qingyun and Ji Wenjiang looked at each other, and they immediately understood the position of the academics. Li Huaqing would certainly not let go of such a good opportunity. No matter how good their relationship with Li Tianlan was, the academics had to make plans for itself. Several eyes looked at Dongqing Wudi at the same time. Li Tianlan was looking at Dongqing Wudi. Ji Wenjiang and Wan Qingyun were also looking at Dongqing Wudi. If the prince group and the academics joined hands, there would be 4 members of the Li family. In the current situation, the Southeast group could only choose to join hands with the giant group, so that the 4 directors could barely stand. Chen Fangqing, Li Huaqing, Ji Wenjiang, Wan Qingyun, and even Li Tianlan could see the problem clearly, so could Dongqing Wudi. Ji Wenzhong and Wan Qingyun thought that Dongqing Wudi had no reason to refuse. As for Li Tianlan, he also wanted to see if the giant group was really willing to support him at all costs. The giant group, the Southeast group. The Prince group, the academics. They joined hands. In many cases, when it came to the overall situation and politics, the boundary between opponents and friends had always been very blurred. There were no eternal opponents, and there were no eternal friends. Joining hands and playing games, fighting and compromising, had always been because of interests, and only because of interests. Dongqing Wudi smiled faintly and said calmly, "Everyone, Tianan has not returned yet. Whether it is Emperor Dong's palace or Xianyuan City, they should be limited to the special warfare system, right? Your Highness Gu Xingyun, what do you think?" His voice was very calm, but as soon as he spoke, Chen Fangqing and Li Huaqing's eyes had narrowed at the same time. Wan Qingyun and Ji Wenzhong breathed a sigh of relief. Obviously, Dongqing Wudi had accepted the signal to join hands to stop Wang Jingxin's mobilization. Zhou Mulin was silent for a while, nodded, and said clearly, "I agree with the minister. In this matter, it is obvious that Kunlun City has the most say." Gu Xingyun's eyes had become extremely distorted. He sat here on an equal footing with the directors, but he had no right to vote. These people discussed for a long time and completely regarded him as transparent. Now they remembered that this was a matter of the Special Warfare Group? Gu Xingyun only felt extremely aggrieved, and even his internal injury got worse. A few years ago, after the retirement of Qi Beizong, the executive minister of the army headquarters of Zhongzhou State, and the leader of the Special Warfare Group, the Special Warfare Group received enough compensation in other fields, but it lost the decision-making power at the highest level. This was the biggest weakness of the Special Warfare Group today. Gu Xingyun alone could not support this situation for the time being. But now that Dongqing Wudi had sent the opportunity to him, he could not give it up. How could he not know that this opportunity was actually a trap? But the problem was that he could not retreat. Because he was the god of war of Zhongzhou State, the leader of the special warfare system of Zhongzhou State, and Kunlun City was the special warfare center of Zhongzhou State. As for the problem of Tiannan, Kunlun City had the most say before everything came to the table. It was impossible for him to agree with Li Tianlan's people as the mayor of Xianyuan City. If possible, he would not agree with the people of other groups as the mayor. In the final analysis, this was an internal matter of the special warfare area. Even for the sake of the face of Kunlun City, Gu Xingyun had to fight for the position of mayor. As for whether it was a trap or an opportunity, it depended on the ability of the new mayor. Gu Xingyun took a deep breath. He was clearly aware of the obvious smell of blood in his throat as he breathed. He clenched his fists tightly and said calmly, "Comrade Wang Jingxin is indeed a very good candidate, but I also have a candidate here for you to consider." He said lightly, "Qi Mulin, the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Security, what do you think?" Qi Mulin once served as the mayor of Beijiang, the speaker, the deputy governor, and so on. 2 years ago he was transferred to the Ministry of Security. He has the experience of governing a local government, working in the Ministry of Security, and dealing with people in the dark world. I think Qi Mulin is more suitable to be the mayor of Xianyuan City than Wang Jingxin. I agree. Without hesitation, Dongqing Wudi directly expressed his position. Agree. 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 Ji Wenzhong, Wan Qingyun, and Zhou Mulin spoke almost at the same time. Gu Xingyun had to fight for the position of mayor of Xianyuan City. If Gu Xingyun did not fight for the grievances between the Gu family and the Li family, it would cause considerable opinions in the outside world. He had to fight for it, and there was no way back. But the Southeast group did not need to fight for this. They also did not want to see Li Tianlan rise, but they did not want to lose anything. I agree. Li Tianlan was smiling, but when Chen Fangqing saw his smile, he felt a chill in his heart. If Zhou Yuanshan and Wang Jingxin were the next generation of the giant group, then Qi Mulin could be said to be the next leader of the special warfare group. Qi Mulin was the adopted son of Qi Beizong. Qi Beizong had no reputation after losing his son in the early years. After adopting Qi Mulin, he put all his hopes on him. Under the care of Qi Beizong, Qi Mulin's Qi family developed rapidly, and Qi Mulin stood out early. At the age of 32, he was a deputy governor with real power. This kind of light was extremely dazzling in the whole Zhongzhou state. Gu Xingyan was not confused by anger. He chose a person who could stand shoulder to shoulder with Wang Jingxin and Zhou Yuanshan. I think Comrade Wang Jingxin is more suitable for the work in Xianyuan City, Guo Wentian said slowly. Of course, Comrade Qi Mulan is also very excellent, but he has a heavy burden in the Ministry of Security. The Ministry of Security is sensitive, so I don't recommend transferring him. The burden in Lin is also heavy. Relatively speaking, Qi Mulan is relatively easy. Wan Qingyan said tit for tat. The government of Lin has developed well in recent years, and the system is still very mature. If Wang Jingxin goes to Xianyuan City, the impact will not be too big. On the contrary, many things in the Ministry of Security are very sensitive. If we transfer him in a hurry, I'm afraid it's not appropriate. I think it's better for Wang Jingxin. Hua Jingyang, the Prime Minister of Zhongzhou State for the first time, said with a smile. As the leader of the academics, second only to Li Huaqing, Hua Jingyang showed the attitude of the academics as soon as he spoke. Li Tianlan took a meaningful look at Li Huaqing. Li Huaqing's smile was very gentle. Let's vote. Chen Fangqing chuckled and said, everyone's will is worthy of respect. President, I suggest holding a plenary meeting of the parliament immediately to vote on this matter. He looked at Li Tianlan and said with a smile, Marshal Li is busy, and there is a very important thing in Tiannan now. This matter can't be delayed. Since we have decided to establish Xianyuan City, we should cut the Gordian knot and choose the mayor as soon as possible, so that we can discuss the next plan. Dongqing Wudi's expression froze for a moment. The expressions of Ji Wenzong and Wan Qingyan also changed. Holding a plenary meeting of the parliament. They really didn't expect Chen Fangqing to do this. Now it was the council meeting of the Zhongzhou State Parliament, which could be said to be the most authoritative and highest-level meeting in Zhongzhou State. The plenary meeting of the parliament was to summon more than 20 councillors to vote together, which suddenly expanded the scope several times. But it was really hard to refuse this matter. Under normal circumstances, the vote of a senior official at the level of deputy governor did not need to be discussed at the plenary meeting of the parliament. However, Chen Fangqing's proposal to hold a plenary meeting to vote on such a sensitive matter as the first mayor at the level of deputy governor in Tiannan and the first mayor of Xianyuan City was very appropriate. But the point was Wan Qingyan and Ji Wenzhong didn't dare to gamble. They really didn't dare to gamble. The sixth group of Zhongzhou State. Now, although Gu Xingyan of the Special Warfare Group proposed a candidate, although his rank was at the level of a councillor, he was not a real councillor, so he didn't have the right to vote. And the North Group was weak. Today's meeting was so lively that they were really watching the fun. Zhou Yunhai, the dignified Minister of Politics and Law of Zhongzhou State, as a councillor, didn't express his opinion on this matter from beginning to end. In the voting, the North Group was bound to abstain. In this way, it was a contest between the Southeast Group and the Giant Group against the Academics and the Prince Group. The Four Group was also the four strongest groups in Zhongzhou State today. Looking at the strength on paper, such a comparison of strength was actually equal, and even the number of councillors and councillors was infinitely equal. Under normal circumstances, if the result of the voting was infinitely close, as the president, Li Huaqing was unlikely to exercise the highest decision-making power. Because in any case, Li Tianlan and the Giant Group were allies of the academics. It was not the time to fall out with them, and there was even no possibility of falling out in the future. The reason why Chen Fangqing and Li Huaqing supported the voting showed that they believed that their side would still win with a relatively large advantage when there was little or no difference in strength between the two sides. The reason? It was very simple. Because this matter was about the appointment of Wang Jingxin. And inside the Southeast Group, there was Wang Qinglei. The cracks inside the Wang family of Beihai were now more and more obvious. At the most critical moment, summer solstice sent Wang Xiaoyao to Eastern Europe. More and more people were aware of the abnormality inside the Wang family of Beihai. And Wang Qinglei had made frequent moves inside the group recently, and his prestige had soared. Many people had begun to move. If there was really a vote, as the future leader Wang Tianzong was most optimistic about, Wang Jingxin could not get Wang Qinglei's support. After all, Wang Jingxin's advance and retreat could even directly affect Wang Qinglei's position. Although there was a big age gap between the two, it was not big enough for 2 presidential terms. If the Southeast Group wanted to push Wang Jingxin to the highest altar in Zhongzhou State 20 years later, then the first decade was also the most glorious time for Wang Qinglei. He had to make compromises and sacrifices. His career might not stop there, but he certainly would not be able to reach the position of president. Now the 6th group were competing with each other, and it was unlikely that 2 consecutive presidents would come from the same group. Similarly, if Wang Qinglei sat in the position he dreamed of 10 years later, then Wang Jingxin was unlikely to reach the top. Within the Southeast Group, Wang Qinglei and Wang Jingxin had become the most direct competitors, not to mention the obvious cracks within the group. Vote. The power that belonged to Wang Qinglei would definitely support the Prince Group and the academics to transfer Wang Qinglei to Tiannan. At least for now, Wang Qinglei was extremely confident. He did not oppose Zhongzhou State weakening the Wang family of Beihai, because he was confident. He was confident that after he reached the top, he could take the Wang family of Beihai to a new peak in 10 years, or even longer. The Wang family of Beihai was dominated by him and Wang Xiaoyao. I agree to hold a plenary meeting of the council, Li Huaqing said calmly. In this case, let's adjourn for the time being and invite all members of parliament to Zhongzhou State. With today's means of communication, all members of parliament could participate in this meeting through online video. However, it could be said that this voting meeting was related to the future pattern of Zhongzhou State. Every director had to confirm the attitude of the councillors face-to-face. To put it bluntly, the face-to-face voting was the easiest to control, and the most powerful vote. Li Tianlan, who had been silent, slowly turned around and walked out of the conference room. Other directors also stood up and moved their bodies. It was dusk outside the window. The meeting that started in the early morning had lasted for a whole day. Li Tianlan looked at the dusk outside the window that was about to fade, lost in thought. Tianlan. Dongcheng Wudi walked over slowly and handed Li Tianlan a cigarette. Li Tianlan took out a lighter and lit it for him. Then he lit his own cigarette and took a deep breath. He may not be able to withstand it. Dongcheng Wudi said slowly. It's okay. Li Tianlan shook his head with a smile. The situation may not be as bad as we think. Dongcheng Wudi said with some doubts. Because it's too early, Li Tianlan said softly. I don't think Wang Qinglei is ready to break up with Wang Tianzong, even if this is a good opportunity. Dongcheng Wudi thought for a moment, nodded, and then shook his head. What if Wang Jingxin really becomes the mayor of Xianyuan City? He asked slowly. He can't go up. Li Tianlan shook his head. Qi Mulin can't go up either. You want to? Dongcheng Wudi raised his eyebrows. There are still many people who don't know me or Tiannan very well. Li Tianlan said lightly. I don't mind putting on a show with them, but when the show is over, they must also realize that I have the final say in Tiannan. Xianyuan City can have a mayor, but this mayor must be surnamed Ning. Dongcheng Wudi was silent for a long time and said softly, You are trying to establish power. Li Tianlan smiled and did not answer. Chapter 7:16. At 9 o'clock in the evening, the meeting, which had been adjourned for nearly 4 hours, resumed after eating the meal sent by the staff. The original council meeting became a meeting attended by all the councillors. All the councillors, including several governors of special provinces, rushed to Yuzhou as soon as they received the notice. One of them even gave up the councillors' meeting that was held in his own province. In addition, there were 2 special people who were also invited to participate in this meeting. The candidates for the first mayor of Tiannan, Wang Jingxin, Qi Mulin. Ning Ziyuan snorted unabashedly when he saw the 2 candidates. He almost couldn't hold back his anger. In Zhongzhou State's mind, these 2 were the best candidates for the first mayor of Tiannan. But when Li Tianlan proposed the establishment of Xianyuan City, he recommended Ning Qiancheng. In any case, Ning Qiancheng should be one of the candidates, and he was nominated by Li Tianlan himself. Even if Zhongzhou State didn't agree, it should call him in. This was the minimum respect and basic procedure. However, Both Chen Fangqing and Li Huaqing were determined not to give face to Li Tianlan. Ning Qianqing's issue was not mentioned at all. As the voting was about to take place, one of them, Qi Mulan or Wang Jingxin, would become the first mayor of Xianyuan City. In the solemn conference room, the councillors took their seats one by one. Li Tianlan sat in the last seat. When Zhongzhou State didn't approve his resignation, he was still the marshal of the special warfare system of Zhongzhou State and a councillor. But because of his age, his position was very low. This time, Gu Xingyun didn't sit next to Li Tianlan. Next to Li Tianlan was Wu Zhengmin, the vice prime minister of Zhongzhou State, who had entered the cabinet but had not been added as a councillor. There was no doubt that compared with the academics and even the giant group, Wu Zhengmin and Li Tianlan had a closer relationship. Li Tianlan's own group was still an illusion, but if this illusory group was really put forward now, Wu Zhengmin would be the well-deserved leader of the Li family's group. But it was a little embarrassing that only Wu Zhengmin could really play a role in the overall situation. A one-man group inevitably sounded a little shabby. Sitting next to Li Tianlan, Wu Zhengmin glanced at Li Tianlan calmly and hesitated. Li Tianlan looked calm and shook his head with a smile. In this meeting, he and Wu Zhengmin had the right to speak as members of parliament, but they did not have the right to vote. Although Wu Zhengmin would officially enter the parliament of Zhongzhou State in a few months, he did not have the power to make decisions at the moment. This was a rule that could not be broken. So they were sitting here today just to watch the fun. Even though Li Tianlan was the most important person involved, Dongqing Wudi inevitably had to be more serious. When the meeting was adjourned, he also exchanged in-depth opinions with Wan Qingyun and Ji Wenzong. Although both sides knew that the cooperation between them was likely to be limited to this meeting, and would immediately go their separate ways after the meeting, or even become mortal enemies, it was necessary to strengthen the temporary alliance between the two sides at this critical moment. Dongqing Wudi knew Li Tianlan's plan very well. The first mayor of Xianyuan City, Li Tianlan's first nomination in Zhongzhou State, must be Ning Qianqing, no one else. This was related to the future of Tiannan and the Li family group, as well as Li Tianlan's personal prestige. Li Tianlan would not retreat. Therefore, whether Wang Jingxin or Qi Mulan was elected today, Li Tianlan must take action in the most straightforward and forceful way. Li Tianlan had been mentally prepared to completely fall out with Kunlun City, or the Wang family of Beihai. He was fearless, and in the case of no retreat, he could be said to be really unscrupulous. But Dongqing Wudi was different. He could not give up on Li Tianlan, which meant that if Qi Mulan was elected, they would become mortal enemies with Qi Beizong and the entire special warfare group. If Wang Jingxin was elected, they would fight to the death with the Wang family of Beihai. Compared with the Wang family of Beihai and the Southeast group, it was undoubtedly Dongqing Wudi who offended a newly risen special warfare group with a poor foundation. This was the situation that Dongqing Wudi wanted to see most. Although it meant that after Qi Mulan was elected, Dongqing Wudi would bear more pressure in the army headquarters in the future. Dongqing Wudi looked at Li Tianlan with a gentle look in his eyes. Qi Beizong was the former standing minister of the army headquarters of Zhongzhou State. He had been in the army headquarters for many years. Even though he retired, his influence was still deep-rooted. If they offended Qi Beizong at this time, the situation of the army headquarters would be more complicated. But compared with offending the Wang family of Beihai, this was the best result. Moreover, Li Tianlan was too young after all. Dongqing Wudi was willing to help Li Tianlan bear more pressure. For public or private reasons, he should do so. His eyes swept across the audience, paused slightly on the members of the giant group, and then fell on Zhou Mulan. Everyone's expression was calm and determined. Dongqing Wudi took a deep breath and waited for the meeting to continue. The meeting lasted for the 13th hour. At 9:15 p.m., the news that Li Tianlan was about to establish Xianyuan City had already spread throughout Zhongzhou State, and even throughout the dark world, because of the midway adjournment. While the whole world was paying attention to the situation in Tiannan, the whole world was also paying attention to the result of this meeting in Zhongzhou State. Facing Li Tianlan's gradually sharpening eyes, Li Huaqing's loud and steady voice spread throughout the audience. It was simple, direct, and without any detour. Everyone, You should be very clear about the reason for holding this plenary meeting urgently. Marshal Li Tianlan has officially defeated the Burning Legion and recaptured Tunan City. Zhongzhou State has decided to establish Xianyuan City with Tunan City as the foundation in Tiannan. If there is no accident, Xianyuan City will be the capital of the whole Tiannan province in the future. His eyes looked around the audience, and there was a very obvious pressure in his gentleness. The reason for holding this meeting is to discuss the personnel issues in Xianyuan City. At present, we have two candidates, Speaker Wang Jingxin of Lin and Qi Mulan, the Deputy Minister of the Ministry of Security. As for these two comrades, I personally prefer Comrade Wang Jingxin. If you have any ideas, please say them. Everyone narrowed their eyes at the same time. Li Huaqing's attitude was extremely firm. This was obviously Chen Fengqing's proposal, but as soon as he came up, Li Huaqing first expressed his preference. He was the president of Zhongzhou State, and his attitude could undoubtedly put great pressure on others. Moreover, his attitude fully showed that in this meeting, on this personnel issue, the Prince Group and the academics had joined hands. I think Comrade Qi Mulan is more suitable. Comrade Qi Mulan's performance in the Ministry of Security is obvious to all. The nature of his work is also more suitable for the sensitive and complicated situation in Tiannan. Yi Dongsheng, the Deputy Minister of the Army Headquarters, the Chief of Staff, known as the God of Army, was the first to express his opinion without any hesitation. As one of the leaders of the Southeast Group, he could not care less about Li Huaqing on this matter. Li Tianlan could be unscrupulous because he had nothing now. After all, Emperor Dong's palace had just taken shape. But the Wang family of Beihai could not. At this stage, the Wang family of Beihai did not want to have any conflict with Li Tianlan for the time being. Yes, Comrade Qi Mulan is more suitable. As for Comrade Wang Jingxin, he is doing well in Linen. Recently, the plan of Lin and World Expo application has been sent to the cabinet, and the procedure has been started. I think it's more suitable to replace him at this time. Tong Xiaoshan, the vice minister of the cabinet, said calmly. As the only power of the Southeast Group in the cabinet, he must show his attitude. I've learned about Lin An's application for the World Expo. There is no problem in the procedure. It's just a formality, and the impact is not great. Comrade Wang Jingxin is a steady person. I think it's more suitable for him to go to Tiannan. A loud voice sounded after Tong Xiaoshan. It was He Nanfang, the speaker of Nanyue in Zhongzhou State, one of the leaders of the Prince Group. I support Comrade Qi Mulan. The speaker of Beihai Province's voice was flat. There was no reason, but his attitude was extremely clear. Comrade Qi Mulan is indeed more suitable. Bai Zhanfang, the speaker of Yuzhou, said lightly. You can't say that. With Comrade Wang Jingxin's ability, I think he is very suitable to serve as the mayor of Xianyuan City. The mayor of Xianyuan City. As for experience, Comrade Wang Jingxin is still young and can be trained. Besides, His Highness Li Tianlan is looking after Tiannan. Even if Comrade Wang Jingxin makes a mistake, there will be no problem. Zhong Yongming, the speaker of Huading, said with a smile. He was a loyal member of the Prince Group and had a deep hatred for Li Tianlan. Back in Huading, his son Zhong Yue died in Li Tianlan's hands. Zhong Yongming had never shown too much hostility, but the hatred of his son's death was really irreconcilable. Zhong Yongming didn't move because he didn't find a chance. As long as there was a chance, he didn't mind making trouble for Li Tianlan. The bigger the trouble, the happier he would be. I agree with Speaker Zhong. In the hearty laughter, another member of the Prince Group stood up. The meeting was becoming more and more lively. The North Group still remained silent. People from the Prince Group, the academics, the Giant Group, and the Southeast Group kept speaking, and their words became more and more intense. Li Tianlan, the center of everyone's attention, did not speak. In the other center, Wang Qinglei also did not speak. Chen Fengqing glanced at Wang Qinglei, narrowed his eyes and suddenly said with a smile, "Since everyone's opinions are not unanimous, then I suggest a vote." He didn't want to talk about voting anonymously. What he wanted was to see everyone's attitude clearly, especially Wang Qinglei's. He glanced at Li Huaqing. Li Huaqing nodded and said calmly, "Those who agree with Wang Jingxin's transfer to Tiannan, please raise your hand." When he said this, He was the first to raise his hand. Prime Minister Chen Fangqing of Zhongzhou State, Second Prime Minister Hua Zhengyang, and Speaker Guo Wentian raised their hands one after another. The members of the two groups also raised their hands. Chen Fangqing stared at Wang Qinglei, his eyes extremely sharp. Wang Qinglei's palm moved slightly, but in the end he did not raise it. He was really not ready to let the Southeast group split now. Chen Fangqing's eyes focused for a moment, then he smiled and did not speak. Wang Qinglei's attitude was very important, but it was not crucial. With such a good opportunity, even if Wang Qinglei did not raise his hand, he would certainly not support Qi Mulin's transfer to Tiannan. The biggest concession he made was nothing more than not supporting Wang Jingxin. In this case, they still had an advantage in votes. This was a very crucial vote. Even if they abstained, it could still play a role. The most important thing was that the president was on their side. When there was no advantage or the advantage was weak, the president could make the decision. Without Wang Qinglei, the Southeast group and the Giant group could not surpass them in votes. Li Huaqing smiled and said lightly, "Those who agree with Qi Mulin's transfer to Tiannan, please raise your hand." Dongqing Wudi was the first to raise his hand. He was very determined. Wan Qingyun and Ji Wenjiang raised their hands at the same time. The members raised their hands one by one. 1, 2. Huh. Who was that? Everyone's pupils constricted. In the corner of the conference room, Xia Qiuling, a member of Zhongzhou State and the joint minister of Zhongzhou State, was also raising her hand. Her expression was very calm. Li Huaqing's expression froze for a moment. Xia Qiuling. This was not a member of the Giant group, nor of the Southeast group, but the North group. Chen Fangqing suddenly looked back and stared at Zhou Yunhai, the director of Zhongzhou State, the supreme leader of the North group. In everyone's sight, Zhou Yunhai's palm was raised little by little. In silence he finally raised his arm. The North group. How was it possible? Li Huaqing narrowed his eyes. There was an uproar in the conference room. Chen Fangqing's face suddenly became extremely gloomy. Was Wang Qinglei's vote crucial? Maybe it was. Chapter 717. Zhou Yunhai's hand was raised quietly. It was calm, stable, and indifferent. It was a hand full of power. Everyone was looking at this hand, and their minds were blank. Zhou Yunhai had been low-key for too long. For a long time, even some extremely powerful counselors like Yi Dongsheng had more right to speak than Zhou Yunhai, a counselor. But after knowing this and seeing him raise his hand, people realized that this was one of the most powerful hands in the entire Zhongzhou state. Not only because the owner of this hand controlled the political and legal organs of the entire Zhongzhou state, but also because the owner of this hand controlled the lifeline of the entire North group. The North group was the weakest among the six. They hadn't even had a president for decades, but they were also the most cohesive within the six. Zhou Yunhai's raising of his hand did not represent himself, not even the key vote at the moment. It represented the attitude of the whole group. Specifically speaking now, 1 counselor, 2 counselors, 3 votes. 3 votes were enough to break the fragile balance of the 4 groups. And it was complete destruction. Zhou Yunhai. How could it be possible? Why was it Zhou Yunhai? Chen Fangqing was a little confused and angry. He and Li Huaqing had their own plans, but his biggest purpose was to weaken the Wang family of Beihai. For him, Li Tianlan and Xianyuan City were not even the most important things in this meeting and this vote. Tiannan was indeed the key, but even if he really believed Li Tianlan's promise, it was the key that could be controlled after 5 years. And the Wang family of Beihai. 5 years? Chen Fangqing couldn't afford to waste this time. With Wang Tianzong missing, the Wang family of Beihai lost its spiritual leader, the 7 sword-holding families were swept away, and the internal cracks in Mount Dibing were getting bigger and bigger. With internal and external troubles, this was the best time to target the Wang family of Beihai. No one knew how long it would last, but once Wang Tianzong reappeared, the good situation would be completely destroyed. What Chen Fangqing wanted most was to seize this opportunity to weaken the Wang family of Beihai, not only for the Prince Group, but also for Zhongzhou State. No one denied that the Wang family of Beihai had brought unimaginable benefits to Zhongzhou State for hundreds of years. But no one could deny that a Wang family of Beihai that could be completely controlled by Zhongzhou state could bring greater benefits to Zhongzhou state. Transferring Wang Jingxin to Tiannan was definitely a wonderful move that could throw the Wang family of Beihai into chaos. No matter how powerful the Southeast group was, its resources were limited. Wang Jingxin had reached this step and was stuck at the threshold of the governor level. It would take unimaginable resources to train a future leader to this level. Countless political achievements, overt and covert propaganda, and so on, could not be measured by money. It was impossible for the Wang family of Beihai to give up on Wang Jingxin. If they really gave up on Wang Jingxin, it would be difficult for the Wang family of Beihai to cultivate a qualified successor in a short time. The candidate they pushed out in a hurry could not stand up to the top young generation like Zhou Yuanshan. As long as the Wang family of Beihai did not give up on Wang Jingxin, they had to confront Li Tianlan and Tiannan. At that time, Chen Fangqing would naturally give Li Tianlan more support and let the Wang family of Beihai invest more and more energy in Tiannan. When the Wang family of Beihai's investment in Tiannan reached the upper limit, it was bound to compromise with Zhongzhou state. Chen Fangqing did not expect the Wang family of Beihai to be obedient to Zhongzhou state all at once. But slowly, step by step, he could change the transcendent status of the Wang family of Beihai in 10 years, 20 years, 50 years. Such a situation was not completely hopeless for the Wang family of Beihai. As long as they solved Wang Qinglei internally, and helped Wang Jingxin block Li Tianlan in Tiannan, once Tiannan returned, Wang Jingxin's reputation would also reach its peak. At that time, it was even equivalent to directly locking in the position of president in 20 years. The Wang family of Beihai could also use Wang Jingxin to relaunch Beihai shipping. If this chapter is not finished, please turn the page. The province became transcendent. This was undoubtedly a very difficult path, but it was not completely hopeless. This was also Chen Fangqing's most brilliant enemy. He would never force his opponents to a dead end. While protecting himself, he could also attack his enemies, and at the same time, he could prevent his enemies from doing something desperate. In the end, as the situation became more and more difficult, they would be silently scattered. Chen Fangqing's plan could be said to be infinitely close to success. But Zhou Yunhai, he directly took the palms of the other two members of the Wang family of Beihai with one hand. The number of members and directors who supported Qi Mulan to go to Tiannan had exceeded the number of members and directors who supported Wang Jingxin, especially the 9 directors. Now there were 5 who opposed Wang Jingxin. Even Li Huaqing could not force this appointment, otherwise the consequences would be too serious. Now Li Huaqing, who was bent on protecting the interests of the academics, would certainly not do so. And all this was because of Zhou Yunhai. He betrayed the interests of Zhongzhou state. Chen Fangqing took a deep breath, and the anger in his eyes grew stronger. He did not know why Zhou Yunhai supported Qi Mulan. There were too many possibilities. It might be because of the Wang family of Beihai, the giant group, or the special warfare group. No matter which side he favored, it was possible for him to raise his hand now. The key was to see which of the 3 could give him more benefits. Chen Fangqing gritted his teeth. He wanted to speak several times, but he finally said nothing. The atmosphere suddenly became silent. Li Huaqing waited for a few seconds, nodded slowly and said calmly, "In this case, Comrade Qi Mulan, you hand over the work of the Ministry of Security these days." "Okay." Qi Mulan nodded calmly, but there was a flash of obvious excitement in his eyes. Yes, excitement. He might not know the reason why he and Wang Jingxin were pushed out, or he might not know. Or he might know Gu Xingyan's helplessness, or he might not know, but it didn't matter. At least for him it was a good thing. Compared with the leaders of the next generation like Wang Jingxin and Zhou Yuanshan, the identity of the successor of the Special Warfare Group was slightly weaker. Besides, he was only Qi Baitsong's adopted son, not his biological son. In this way, the support he could get was slightly worse than that of the first 2. If there was no accident, 20 years later, he might try his best to radicalize the council of the Zhongzhou State Parliament, but his ranking would certainly not be too ideal. It was certain that he would be at the bottom. Now going to Tiannan was undoubtedly an opportunity for him. In a sensitive place like Tiannan, his experience in the Ministry of Security and local work could be perfectly matched. In other words, as long as he could stand firm in Tiannan, the identity of the future leader of the Special Warfare Group would no longer be disputed. If he did well enough, he could even be qualified to compete with Wang Jingxin and others. As for the conflict with Li Tianlan, he didn't dare to look down on Li Tianlan, but no matter what the conflict was, it was the conflict between the Special Warfare Group and Li Tianlan. With the support of Gu Xingyun, he felt that he should be able to cope with it. Qi Mulan subconsciously glanced at Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan's eyes swept over calmly, and there was a hint of an ambiguous smile at the corner of his mouth. Qi Mulan lowered his head slightly and stopped talking. Li Huaqing encouraged Qi Mulan a few words, and also chatted with Wang Jingxin. Before the end of the meeting, the two senior officials at the level of deputy governor, who should not have appeared in this meeting, had been taken out of the conference room by the secretary. Li Tianlan sat in his seat and yawned in boredom. There was a subtle change in the silent conference room. The Prince Group and the academics. The tacit understanding between the Giant Group and the Southeast Group seemed to have completely disappeared. All the cooperation was completely stopped after the formal vote. Li Huaqing looked at Li Tianlan with a smile and whispered, "Tianlan, this comrade Qi Mulan this chapter is not over. Please turn the page. I believe that he will be a good helper for you after he arrives in Tiannan. Zhongzhou State will increase its support for Xianyuan City in the future. If you need anything, you can communicate with me and His Highness Gu Xingyun at any time. Of course, you can also communicate with Minister Dongcheng." "I understand." Li Tianlan nodded. Gu Xingyun, who was watching all this coldly, moved the corner of his mouth, revealing a very grim smile. He was very satisfied with the result. Unlike the Wang family of Beihai, the Wang family of Beihai didn't want to fight with Li Tianlan to the end because of the threat brought to them by Zhongzhou State and Li Tianlan's current terrifying strength. But Kunlun City was different. Kunlun City had no way to retreat. No matter how strong Li Tianlan was, as long as he was in Zhongzhou State, Kunlun City must stand in front of him. Li Tianlan and Emperor Dong's palace rose faster and faster. Now Kunlun City's high-end combat power suffered heavy losses. Gu Xingyun and Gu Qianchuan, two invincible realm experts, were seriously injured. Li Tianlan had proved again and again that his strength was enough to be on the former divine list. Under such circumstances, every time Li Tianlan and Emperor Dong's palace took a step forward, Kunlun City was forced to take a step back. He knew Chen Fangqing. So he knew very well that he couldn't stop the establishment of Xianyuan City. If he wanted to restrain Li Tianlan, he could only tamper with the position of mayor of Xianyuan City. Qi Mulan's election was a little unexpected, but it was the most powerful exception for Kunlun City. As soon as the voting result came out, Gu Xingyun made up his mind to support Qi Mulan's development in Xianyuan City at all costs and suppress Li Tianlan. Gu Xingyun didn't want to wait any longer. He had decided to use Qi Mulan to restrain Emperor Dong's palace first. As long as he recovered from his injury, he would take action immediately. Even if it would set off another case of treason, he would completely eliminate the Li family and Li Tianlan. In a short silence, Li Huaqing raised his hand and looked at his watch. At 11 o'clock in the evening. It was the 15th hour of the meeting. Li Huaqing cheered up, took a sip of tea, and said calmly, "So let's continue the meeting." When he said this, his eyes had fallen on Ning Ziyuan, and became extremely stern. Time passed slowly. From early morning to late night. The lights in the conference room of the Hidden Dragon Sea Conference were always on. Under the close attention of the world, the Burning Legion invaded Tunan City in the 24th hour. The Parliament of Zhongzhou State finally ended the long meeting late at night. Zhongzhou State officially decided to support Emperor Dong's palace to establish Xianyuan City. Qi Mulan, the deputy minister of the Ministry of Security, was secretly transferred to Tiannan as the first mayor of Xianyuan City, and had the power to nominate other leaders. The personnel appointments were formed into documents as soon as the meeting ended and sent to the Ministry of Personnel for filing. The parliament severely criticized Ning Ziyuan, the commander of Tiannan Freedom Corps, for his inaction and gave Ning Ziyuan severe punishment. Ning Ziyuan's military rank was demoted from general to lieutenant general. The parliament also gave Ning Ziyuan a serious punishment and ordered him to make a written review in a short period of time. At the same time, the parliament approved Li Tianlan's request to resign as the Marshal of Zhongzhou State and the commander of the Snowdance Corps. Countless details were finalized one by one in the last few hours of the meeting. When Li Tianlan walked out of the conference room, the hidden dragon sea was already silent late at night. Li Tianlan walked out of the door of the conference room and paused. Gu Xingyin walked past him with no expression on his face. Following the direction he was walking in, Li Tianlan turned his head slightly and narrowed his eyes. In his sight, Qi Mulin, the newly elected mayor of Xianyuan City, was waiting to greet Gu Xingyin. He was very respectful. Li Tianlan smiled, which was as bright as the sun. End of this chapter. Bookmark for easy reading. Chapter 718. Gu Xingyin didn't hesitate or avoid it. Out of the conference room, he waved at Qi Mulin as soon as he saw him. Li Tianlan's eyes fell on his back, cold and sharp like a blade. Gu Xingyin was expressionless. He quietly watched Qi Mulin coming over and said lightly, "Prepare for tonight. Before going to Tiannan, go to Kunlun City first. The situation in Tiannan is complicated. You have to bring 2 trustworthy people." His voice was not loud, but it was sure that everyone could hear it. This was to choose bodyguards for Qi Mulin to protect him in Tiannan. Kunlun City had a poor foundation. When Gu Xingyin and Gu Qianchuan were seriously injured, it was impossible to find an expert who could guard against Li Tianlan. But it was not difficult to find 2 experts at the peak of the thunder-shocking realm. At this time he declared this in front of all the directors and members of Zhongzhou State. No matter how arrogant Li Tianlan was, Gu Xingyin did not believe that he would directly attack the experts of Kunlun City and Qi Mulin in Tiannan. Li Tianlan did not dare to do it. Ramelin would not attack the people of Kunlun City either. Daybreak's life and death were uncertain. In today's Tiannan, 2 experts at the peak of the thunder-shocking realm were enough to ensure Qi Mulin's safety. "Thank you, Your Highness." Qi Mulin bowed slightly and became more respectful. Gu Xingyin nodded. He wanted to let Qi Mulin go back to prepare, but he noticed the eyes behind him. His heart suddenly moved. Just in case, he said slowly, "Let's go together. I have something to tell you." "Why are you so nervous?" Li Tianlan came over with a smile. "Mayor Qi has just accepted the appointment, and the god of war of Zhongzhou State has become a personal bodyguard. It's a big deal. I'm just guarding against some desperate people." Gu Xingyin took a deep breath and said lightly, "Obviously, this appointment is not in line with someone's wishes, right, Your Highness?" He was talking about someone, not some people. It was self-evident who he was referring to. "If you're talking about me, then you're wrong. On the contrary, I think Mayor Qi's appointment is not in line with my wishes. I'm very satisfied with the result of this meeting." Li Tianlan glanced at Qi Mulin and suddenly said, "Am I right, Mayor Qi?" "Your Highness is right," Qi Mulin said with a fake smile and gloomy eyes. As a senior official at the level of deputy governor, he, who came from the Ministry of State Security, was completely different from most of the senior officials in the system. People who had been exposed to too many dark sides would inevitably be assimilated. At this time, his smiling face and eyes had completely expressed the profound hostility. This was undoubtedly what Gu Xingyin wanted to see most, and Qi Mulin was also very clear about this. With his current identity, he didn't care about offending Li Tianlan at all, but he absolutely couldn't lose Gu Xingyun's support. At this moment, facing Li Tianlan, he must show his attitude. "I hope Your Highness and Emperor Dong's palace can cooperate with me in the future." Qi Mulin smiled and reached out his hand to Li Tianlan. "On behalf of Tiannan, I thank Your Highness. As long as Emperor Dong's palace does well enough, Zhongzhou State and I will not treat Your Highness badly." His voice was steady and calm, clear and loud. All the people who passed by them turned their heads subconsciously to look at Li Tianlan. Everyone wanted to know what Li Tianlan's reaction would be. Li Tianlan's purpose of building Xianyuan City was very simple. He wanted to find a real long-term headquarters for Emperor Dong's palace in Tiannan. Ning Qiancheng was the spokesperson he pushed to the surface and also the future core of Li Group. Now this appointment was not approved, and the spokesperson and the future core were somewhat illusory. But in any case, whoever became the mayor of Xianyuan City would, to some extent, serve Li Tianlan. But Qi Mulan obviously didn't have this consciousness. His appointment had just been approved, and before the organizational documents had been sent to the Ministry of Personnel, he had already put on the airs of the mayor outside the conference room. He actually said that he wanted Li Tianlan to cooperate with him. It was cooperation. And this tone was almost like an order. Everyone admired Qi Mulan's courage. Facing a lunatic who dared to attack Gu Xingyun, the god of war of Zhongzhou State, in the meeting of the parliament, he dared to ask him to cooperate with him. This statement was really powerful, and Gu Xingyun must be very satisfied. But what would Li Tianlan do? Li Tianlan did nothing. He glanced at the palm stretched out in front of him, and his eyes narrowed slightly. After a long silence, he nodded and said flatly, "It's a little interesting. It will be more interesting in the future." Qi Mulan calmly withdrew his palm and said with a smile, "Your Highness, see you in Tiannan." He took a step back slightly. Gu Xingyun glanced at Li Tianlan and reached out to shake hands with him. Then he turned around and left with Qi Mulan. Li Tianlan stood where he was, looking at the backs of the two. After a long time he repeated again, "It's a little interesting. He's deliberately provoking you." A voice suddenly rang in Li Tianlan's ears. Li Tianlan turned his head slightly. Li Huaqing, who was the last to walk out of the conference room, stood beside him. Looking at the backs of Gu Xingyun and Qi Mulan, he frowned slightly. If this is their purpose, then they really succeeded. Li Tianlan said flatly, "I have a bad temper, and now I'm even worse. Walk with me." Li Huaqing was silent for a while and patted Li Tianlan on the shoulder. At this time, it was already over 3 o'clock in the night. Li Huaqing, who had a day's meeting, was a little tired, but he didn't feel sleepy. Moreover, his cooperation with Chen Fangqing tonight didn't achieve the goal. Now that the meeting was over, he also needed to communicate with Li Tianlan. Qi Mulan is now the mayor of Xianyuan City. You saw the process of the meeting. In fact, in this kind of meeting about sensitive personnel, the process is not important. What matters is the result. The result is obvious. Qi Mulan will go to Xianyuan City. I opposed it, so did the Prime Minister. But since the result is like this is the will of the whole Zhongzhou State. Tianlan, do you understand? I'm talking about the will of the whole Zhongzhou State. Walking on the quiet path of the hidden Dragon Sea, Li Huaqing spoke with sincerity. Li Tianlan was half a step behind Li Huaqing and gave a faint hum. Li Huaqing opposed such a meeting in the process. But since the result had been formed, the process was no longer important. This was an appointment passed by the Parliament of Zhongzhou State. Naturally, it was the will of the whole Zhongzhou State, including the will of Li Huaqing. Since this appointment appeared, then at least on the surface, whether it was against or in agreement, this appointment must be upheld, defended and supported by Qi Mulan. Politics was not about fighting. Upholding the decision of the organization was the most basic rule. No one could violate it, and no one dared to violate it. This rule even exceeded the position. In this system, those who dared to trample on this rule never had a good end. Why not Wang Jingxin? Li Huaqing's brows furrowed as he suddenly asked. This is not my choice, Li Tianlan said calmly. In today's vote, Ning Qianqing had been excluded. So whether it was Wang Jingxin or Qi Mulan, it made no difference to him. Wang Jingxin's character is still very steady. The Prime Minister and I can reach a tacit understanding, but our thinking may not be the same. I do have the intention to use you to restrain the Wang family of Beihai. There is no need to deny this. Tianlan, in my heart, you are the future god of war of Zhongzhou State. It is your responsibility and obligation to share some of the pressure for Zhongzhou State. When Wang Jingxin goes to Tiannan, you don't have a conflict. But the Wang family of Beihai doesn't dare to be careless. If there is a conflict, I will naturally give you more support. After all, Wang Jingxin's position in Xianyuan City is just a game. There is a lot of room for advance and retreat. But Qi Mulan, Li Huaqing shook his head. You know very well what his past means. There was no doubt that the grievances between Li Tianlan and the Wang family of Beihai ran deep. But even if he swept the Wang family of Beihai and killed many people, for now, It was not impossible for Emperor Dong's palace to coexist with the Wang family of Beihai in the future. This was the room that Li Huaqing said. But Kunlun City was different. Kunlun City now occupied the position that belonged to the Li family. If the Li family wanted to rise, it had to trample on Kunlun City. There was no room for it. Therefore, Gu Xingyun tried his best to fight for the position of mayor of Xianyuan City. If Qi Mulin went to Tiannan, there would be no room between him and Emperor Dong's palace. It would only be a life-and-death battle. The most important thing was that such a life-and-death battle would not benefit Zhongzhou State at this stage. It would cause internal friction. No matter how calm Li Huaqing was, he was a little annoyed at this time. In fact, there is a better choice. Li Tianlan suddenly said. Why? Li Huaqing's movement paused for a moment. What? His voice was a little difficult. Why not Ning Qiancheng? Li Tianlan asked casually. Li Huaqing did not speak. Sending Wang Jingxin was in the interest of Zhongzhou State, the academics, and the Prince Group. Sending Qi Mulin was not good for Zhongzhou State, but it was also harmless for the academics. But sending Ning Qiancheng, this was not what Li Huaqing wanted to see. A new group that started to develop now and had a clear route would not be good for the academics in the long run. Li Tianlan seemed to really just ask casually. Li Huaqing did not answer, nor did he pester him. He just said calmly, sending Wang Jingxin. The Prime Minister means that the position left by Wang Jingxin should be given to Minister Dongcheng to arrange. Yes. Li Huaqing responded casually. That's the explanation for you. Then there must be an explanation for sending Qi Mulin now. I'll take the position left by him. Li Tianlan said softly. Li Huaqing's eyes flickered and he asked. Who are you going to send? I'll have to wait and see. Li Tianlan shook his head. Now he can't wait to provoke you because he wants you to target him. He has just been appointed by Zhongzhou State, so Zhongzhou State must maintain his authority. The more you act, the better it will be for him. I suggest that you keep a low profile during this period. Even if you want to take action, don't do it in the open. At this time, those old people in the Li family can play a big role. There's no need to worry about Tiannan. Li Tianlan said quietly. I'm not interested in understanding Qi Mulin's means, just like I don't want to understand Wang Jingxin. Li Huaqing's movement suddenly stopped. He slowly turned around and looked at Li Tianlan. What do you mean? There's no room for negotiation, President. Li Tianlan said slowly. There's no room for Qi Mulin or Wang Jingxin in the position of Xianyuan City. If I'm not satisfied with them going to Tiannan, they can't go. He took a deep breath and continued. Today's meeting is very lively, but this is not the result I want. The first mayor of Xianyuan City is Ning Qiancheng, and it can only be Ning Qiancheng. Li Huaqing's eyes suddenly became alert and dignified. Tianlan, what do you want to do? Chapter 719. As the adopted son of Qi Beizong, the Qi family supported by Qi Mulin could not be regarded as a first-class wealthy family in Zhongzhou State. In terms of momentum, they could not even be regarded as first-class in Yuzhou. Even before Qi Mulin's promotion to a higher level, they could not even be regarded as a wealthy family. However, the Qi family with Qi Mulin as the leader occupied a mansion on Rosewood Street in Yuzhou. Rosewood Street was not a forbidden area in Yuzhou, but it was one of the most mysterious places in Yuzhou. This clean and wide street was filled with the smell of power and wealth. Rosewood Street was less than 3 kilometers long, but the families of a council member and 2 members of parliament were located on Rosewood Street. In addition, the families of Fan Tianyin, the minister of the Ministry of Security, the commander of the Internal Defense Force of Zhongzhou State, and the minister of the Ministry of Police were also on Rosewood Street. In addition to the families of these core officials, there were nearly 10 super-rich people with assets of more than 100 billion yuan on this street. There were more rich people with slightly less assets. Several old people who once held important leadership positions in Zhongzhou State also settled down on Rosewood Street after retirement. The mansion occupied by the Qi family was originally the property of Qi Beizong. More than 2 years ago, Qi Beizong retired to the south of Zhongzhou State for recuperation, and gave this mansion to Qi Mulin. The Qi family moved to Rosewood Street, and became more and more arrogant. Standing beside the rich and powerful families, They seemed to regard themselves as one of them. When Qi Mulan and Gu Xingyun returned to the Qi family, it was already over 3 o'clock in the night. The mansion was still brightly lit. All the members of the Qi family gathered in the living room, nervously waiting for the news from the parliament of Zhongzhou State. Qi Mulan was the adopted son of Qi Baizong, but he was not an adopted orphan. His family could even be said to be prosperous. Qi Mulan's father was an old subordinate of Qi Baizong, a real henchman, but he was killed in a border conflict. He was arguably the highest-ranking officer to be sacrificed in Zhongzhou State in more than a decade. Qi Baizong had always felt guilty about this, so he took good care of the Qi family. However, after taking care of the Qi family for so many years, only Qi Mulan was promising in the whole Qi family. Now the entire Qi clan had placed all their hopes on Qi Mulan. They had been dreaming of becoming a member of a top-notch clan all day long. Therefore, they were naturally very concerned about Qi Mulan's official career. The convening of this plenary meeting was very sudden. The news that Qi Mulan might go to Southern Heaven City came out of nowhere. However, the news that he had become one of the candidates for the first mayor of Xianyuan City was enough to make the entire Qi clan wild with joy. With Qi Baizong's retirement, Qi Mulan's identity as the future leader of the Special Warfare Group gradually became subtle. In the past 2 years, he had been under great pressure in the Ministry of Security. At this time, if he could become the first mayor of Xianyuan City, he would definitely get the full support of the Special Warfare Group, and his position would be stable. By then, it would no longer be a dream for Qi family to become a top influential family. Qi Mulan's 2 younger sisters, brother-in-law, eldest brother, 1 sister, 3 nephews, Qi Mulan's old mother, and some cousins were all gathered in the hall. The moment they saw Qi Mulan and Gu Xingyun coming in, all of them stood up almost at the same time and bowed slightly to Gu Xingyun. Gu Xingyun smiled and waved his hand. He understood the mentality of the Qi clan very well. It was just like how he dreamed of overthrowing the Li family and replacing it with the Gu family. To some extent, the mood of the Gu family was the same as that of the Qi clan before the treason case was launched. That feeling was unforgettable in this life. I'll wait for you in the study. Gu Xingyun patted Qi Mulan on the shoulder and said, "Have a good chat with your family. Don't worry." Qi Mulan nodded gratefully and watched Gu Xingyun's figure enter the study. Then he slowly turned around, looked at the family who were staring at him, and said softly, "The parliament has approved my appointment. 3 days later, I will set off for Southern Heaven." Silence. In the twinkling of an eye, the expressions of every member of the Qi clan in the hall were completely frozen. The indescribable ecstasy gradually distorted everyone's expression. Heavy breathing sounded in the hall. Under the bright lights, cheers and laughter completely broke out in the silence. It was a hubbub. "Brother, is it true? You are the mayor of Xianyuan City now, right?" Qi Mulan's youngest sister rushed to grab Qi Mulan's shoulder and shouted, "Yes." Qi Mulan nodded with a smile and said, "From now on, our Qi clan has enough confidence to stand on Rosewood Street." From the Ministry of State Security to Southern Heaven, Qi Mulan's rank did not change, but his identity changed almost completely, which meant that he had the full support of the giant group. At this moment, he was no longer the future leader of the Special Warfare Group whose position was somewhat unstable, but the future governor of Tiannan Province, member of Parliament of Tiannan Province, member of Parliament of Zhongzhou State, and director of Zhongzhou State. No one dared to underestimate this identity. "His Highness still has something to communicate with me. It's very late today. Go to rest. Let's talk about it tomorrow." Qi Mulan nodded and turned directly to the study. Gu Xingyun told him not to rush, but how could he dare to really neglect him? From today on, he and Gu Xingyun would have a closer relationship with Kunlun City. If there was no accident, he would become the most important ally of Gu Hanshan in the future when there was no Gu Xingyun in Kunlun City, just like Gu Xingyun and Qi Baizong a few years ago. The more it was like this, the more he had to show his attitude and let Gu Xingyun and Kunlun City completely believe in his loyalty and his ability. Gu Xingyun sat in the study and smoked silently. When he saw Qi Mulan come in, he slightly raised his eyebrows and smiled. "It's very lively outside. Why? Don't you want to celebrate? There will always be opportunities in the future." Qi Mulan smiled. People in my family have a strong desire for power, but they have no ability. They have ambition but no ability. That's what I mean. But no matter what, they are also my family. In the past 2 years, I've been under a lot of pressure, and they haven't had a good time either. They've been suppressed for too long. Now that there's good news, it's inevitable that they'll lose their composure and let your highness laugh at them. I don't have anything to laugh at. Gu Xingyan said calmly. I've also had such a mentality. Everyone in the Gu family has had it, even more serious than now. My father died early. When the case of treason broke out, after it was settled, Zhongzhou State decided to let the Gu family build Kunlun City to guard the order of the special warfare system of Zhongzhou State. When the news was passed to the Gu family, my second uncle, who was in the invincible realm, cried like a child. He cried and scolded like a madman. He paused and shook his head slightly. Qi Mulin listened attentively. He couldn't know these things that belonged to the Gu family. Now that Gu Xingyan was willing to say these things, he was undoubtedly opening his heart to him. Let's not talk about this. Gu Xingyan threw a cigarette to Qi Mulin and said slowly, I just called your foster father. He will come back. Let's discuss it together. Foster father is going back to Yuzhou? Qi Mulin lit the cigarette. In the dim light, his expression flickered, a little gloomy and a little angry. Of course, this was not aimed at Qi Baitsong, who had done so much for him, but at Qi Baitsong's return to Yuzhou. He was a little angry, a little helpless, and a little worried. Will it be okay? It's okay. It's not a crime to go back to Yuzhou once in a while. Gu Xingyan said calmly. Qi Mulin snorted coldly and clenched his fists. He was a little unwilling. Qi Baitsong was a former council member of Zhongzhou State. Before his retirement, he was the only tycoon standing at the highest level of the Special Warfare Group. However, Qi Baitsong was tough. In the position of the standing minister of the army headquarters, he stubbornly resisted the academics, who wanted to gradually master the military's actions. In the past few years, the Special Warfare Group and the Prince Group had gradually drifted apart from each other, and the estrangement between the two sides was deepening. In this way, one could imagine what happened to Qi Baitsong after his retirement. The Special Warfare Group exchanged his retirement for huge benefits, but these benefits could only be said to be potential. If there was no accident, when Li Huaqing retired 3 years later, Zhongzhou State would re-elect the new members of the Zhongzhou State Parliament, and in that list, at least 2 or 3 council members would belong to the Special Warfare Group. This was the benefit that the Special Warfare Group got. However, the deal was a deal, and the reality was the reality. Qi Baitsong's strength had already made the academics extremely dissatisfied. In cooperation with the giant group, they introduced Dongqing Wudi, who was equally strong. In order to eliminate Qi Baitsong's influence in the shortest time, the Zhongzhou State Parliament decided to invite Qi Baitsong to the south for recuperation. The so-called invite sounded polite, but in fact it was the toughest order. After that meeting, Qi Baitsong gave his mansion to Qi Mulin, and went to the south himself. Until now he had not returned to Yuzhou even once. If he stayed in Yuzhou, Dongqing Wudi's pressure would only be greater now. Now it's different from before. Although Chen Fangqing hoped that Wang Jingxin would go to Tiannan, since the result of the vote was that you should go, he must safeguard the interests of the Prince Group. If you can stand against Li Tianlan in Tiannan, we have the basis for cooperation with the Prince Group. There is also room for Qi Baitsong to return to Yuzhou. Gu Xingyan's voice was calm. Qi Mulin's eyes lit up slightly. He stood there thoughtfully. Gu Xingyan glanced at him and said in a softer voice, After you go to Tiannan, do you have any plans? After all, Tiannan is not Zhongzhou State. After this war, Emperor Dong's palace will become stronger and has Li Tianlan, which is not easy to deal with. The most important thing is stability, Qi Mulin said slowly. After all, he was one of the most dazzling high-ranking officials of the young generation in Zhongzhou State. His background was slightly poor, but no one could doubt his ability. The sooner I can stabilize the situation in Xianyuan City, the better it will be for me. Gu Xingyun's eyes suddenly froze. He lowered his head to hide his eyes. Stability. Now in Tiannan, with the strong rise of Emperor Dong's palace, all the superpowers should enter a wait-and-see stage. In addition to Li Tianlan, the biggest unstable factor in Tiannan was the Burning Legion. As long as the Burning Legion could be restrained, it would not be easy for Li Tianlan to take action even if he wanted to. In a stable Xianyuan city, the authority of the mayor was undoubtedly the greatest, just like the prime minister of Zhongzhou State and Dongqing Wudi. In times of peace, the power of the prime minister was naturally greater than that of Dongqing Wudi, the standing minister of the army headquarters. During the period of peaceful development of Zhongzhou State, the minister of the army headquarters of Zhongzhou State was not even a director of Zhongzhou State, but a member of Zhongzhou State. But in recent decades, the international environment changed dramatically, so Zhongzhou State gave the army headquarters more important power. The standing minister of the army headquarters became a director of Zhongzhou State, and his rank was further advanced. The treason case more than 20 years ago made Zhongzhou State feel the threat from the outside world. From that time on, not only was the standing minister of the army headquarters destined to become a director, but the two deputy ministers were also bound to enter the parliament of Zhongzhou State, such as Yi Dongsheng of the Wang family of Beihai and Wei Tianhang of the Prince Group. In the context of today's great era, Dongqing Wudi's rank was a director, and his power was slightly lower than that of Chen Fangqing. But if a war broke out, Dongqing Wudi's power was far greater than that of the prime minister. The government needed stability, and the soldiers were always preparing for war. It was the same everywhere. A stable Tiannan and a stable Xianyuan city could make Qi Mulan's position more stable. As long as Li Tianlan did not want to commit treason, the powerful force of Emperor Dong's palace would not have any effect on Qi Mulan at all. Gu Xingyun understood this very well, but he did not know whether Qi Mulan's talk about stability at this time was an inadvertent plan, or he had guessed the possible relationship between him and the Burning Legion through some clues. Kunlun City will try its best to fight for a relatively stable situation for you. Gu Xingyan was silent for a while and said lightly. Qi Mulan nodded. The stability of Xianyuan City is my only request. As long as Zhongzhou State can put pressure on Li Tianlan, as long as the situation in Tiannan remains unchanged, Li Tianlan and Emperor Dong's palace are not to be feared. I'm sure that I can suppress their development. Emperor Dong's palace, let them stay in Xianyuan City forever. Of course, I believe in your ability. Gu Xingyan smiled lightly. Qi Mulan nodded, sorted out his thoughts, and began to tell him his plan. As the successor of a large group that emerged in countless conspiracies and competitions, he thought he was more familiar with the rules of Zhongzhou State than Li Tianlan. As long as Tiannan was stable, he had too many ways to suppress Li Tianlan. No matter how brave a person was, he was just a boor after all. Within the rules, even Wang Tianzong, who was known as the Invincible Sword Emperor, was restrained, not to mention Li Tianlan. In the game within the rules, he did not think that Li Tianlan, who had only been in the secular world for a few years, was his opponent. Perhaps no one would think that Li Tianlan could beat him in this respect. The study was plotting. The living room was celebrating. With the selection of the mayor of Xianyuan City settled, the people of the Qi family, who had been waiting for a long time, completely relaxed. Qi Mulan's mother was old, so she went back to rest first. As soon as the old madam of the Qi family, whose status depended on her son, left, others immediately relaxed. Qi Mulan's 7-year-old son was nestled in the arms of his aunt, Qi Muyu. His childish face was blank. After listening to the adults in the family talk for a long time, he roughly understood what had happened. Smelling the fragrance of wine coming from his aunt's body, he wrinkled his nose and said softly, "Aunt, are we going to move? What is Tiannan?" "Tiannan is our place, a place that belongs to our family. Dongdong, from now on you are the little prince of Tiannan. Are you happy?" Qi Muyu giggled, holding a wine glass in one hand and pinching the little boy's face with the other. "I heard that Li Tianlan is also in Tiannan. I'm afraid there will be some trouble." Qi Mulan shook her head. She was the eldest daughter of the Qi family, currently working in the Ministry of Supervision of Yuzhou. She was relatively steadier. "What are you afraid of?" Qi Muyu shook her head disdainfully. "He is just a young man in his 20s. It's said that he is very strong, invincible, the future heavenly son, and so on. But no matter how strong he is, Can he be stronger than His Highness Gu Xingyun? Kunlun City will definitely fully support my second elder brother when he goes to Tiannan this time. What about Li Tianlan? Moreover, my second elder brother is the mayor of Xianyuan City, and Li Tianlan is my second elder brother's subordinate. No matter how dissatisfied he is, will he dare to fight against my second elder brother? Don't forget that his father committed treason. Now the old man is dead. If Li Tianlan dares to make trouble, who will let him go? Muyu is right. He is just a young man. How big can he be? Now Li Honghe, the old man, is dead. Without him, the Li family is completely finished. Mu Lin is the mayor of Xianyuan City. What's there to worry about dealing with the young man? Mu Lin has the support of His Highness Gu Xingyun. I guess he will be able to kill Li Tianlan in a few months. Well, I heard that Emperor Dong's palace is very strong. There are elites from the 2 academies, and they are all geniuses. We can consider giving them a chance to join the Qi family. We want to keep up with the top rich and powerful families. It's good to let these people guard our house. Also, we should give them some armaments. A middle-aged man in his 40s said thoughtfully. He was Qi Mulin's elder brother, Qi Muheng. Compared with Qi Mulin's 2 younger sisters and 1 older sister, the eldest son of the Qi family was a good-for-nothing scoundrel. He didn't care about the situation outside at all. Therefore, he took it for granted that Emperor Dong's palace was already in the Qi family's pocket. Those graduates from the 2 academies who wanted to join Emperor Dong's palace after graduation. In his opinion, even the Qi family had to give them a chance. Hearing this, even Qi Mulin's 2 younger sisters could not help but twitch their lips. Dad, I heard that there are very beautiful women around Li Tianlan. A tall and burly young man with a silly expression said with a silly smile. Hey, Xiao Xia is in a hurry to get married? Qi Muyu smiled and said, he's obsessed with wives. I like beautiful women. I want to sleep with them. Qi Xia said with a silly smile. His voice was very loud. Qi Muheng smiled and patted his son's head. Silly son, she is the most beautiful woman in Zhongzhou State. If you really get her, you should give her to His Highness Gu Xingyun and His Highness Gu Qianchuan. I will find you a beautiful girl someday. I also want to sleep with the most beautiful woman with my brother. Qi Dong, who was 7 years old, cried out innocently with a face full of innocence. Everyone was amused and laughed unscrupulously. You can't tell others about this. Otherwise His Highness Li Tianlan may go crazy. A young girl who looked only in her early 20s smiled sweetly, looking pure and innocent. But we can tell him when he is dying. At that time, it will be useless to be angry. Qi Muyu giggled and was about to say something. Bang bang bang. A steady and rhythmic knock on the door suddenly sounded. The whole hall suddenly became silent for a moment. The knock on the door continued. Bang bang bang. Once and again. The steady knock on the door had a consistent rhythm, but it never stopped. It seemed that it would continue until the end of time. Is there no door? Qi Muyu frowned. The mansion that Qi Baitsong gave them was not big, but it was very exquisite. There was a small yard outside the gate of the villa, but the knock on the door actually passed through the gate, stepped over the yard, and came to the door of their villa hall. Bang bang bang. The knocks on the door did not stop, one after another. The few guards of the Qi clan did not seem to notice anything unusual, nor did they stop them. Only the continuous knocks on the door were transmitted to the hall in the middle of the night. Indifferent and continuous. Qi Muyu suddenly panicked. He picked up the communication device in the room and asked, "Who is it?" Bang bang bang. No one spoke, only the continuous knocking on the door. Qi Muyu looked at the screen of the communication device. The screen was lit up, but only a hand appeared on the screen, gently and repeatedly knocking on the door. Qi Muyu hesitated for a while. He looked at the people in the hall who were exchanging glances. What are you afraid of? Qi Muheng shrugged his shoulders and said, His Highness Gu Xingyun is here. Qi Muyu was stunned for a while, but he immediately felt confident. A faint ray of light appeared by the window. The hazy light shone into the room. It was very clear. A faint golden light flowed. It looked very warm. Aunt, the sky is bright. There is no need to be afraid. The 7-year-old Qi Dong smiled and pointed outside the window. The sun is out. Qi Muheng did not react in time. He smiled casually and said, "That's right, the sky is bright very early today." Qi Muyu had already stood up and walked to the door. He smiled coldly and said, pretending to be mysterious, "Let's see who you can scare." She walked to the door. The knocking suddenly stopped. Qi Muyu raised her eyebrows. She had not recovered yet. In her vision, the shape of the door seemed to change for an instant. It was a very small change, like a sharp shape protruding from one of the alloys. The silver-white door seemed to have grown a piece of black without a sound. This moment was too fast. However, it was very clear in Qi Muyu's eyes. It was a piece of black blade. Qi Muyu's expression changed drastically. Her mouth opened wide. She wanted to scream, but she did not have a chance. The black blade silently pierced through the alloy door, directly into her mouth. The sharp edge instantly split open her entire face, and the bleeding blade came out from the back of her head. Qi Muyu was not dead yet. The extreme fear and pain caused her eyes to widen. She whimpered as though she wanted to struggle. The blade didn't stop for even a moment. Bang! It sounded like someone was knocking on the door. Qi Muyu's head suddenly exploded, and her body fell straight to the floor. No one could recover from the scene in front of them. Everyone in the Qi family looked at Qi Muyu's fallen body sluggishly, and their minds were completely blank. Boom! In the midst of the loud noise, the thick silver alloy door was smashed by a huge force from the outside in an instant. The pale golden light, like the sun, poured into the living room unscrupulously. The light was so soft, but the dense light filled everyone's sight, making everything in front of everyone very blurry. Vaguely, there seemed to be a very ordinary figure coming in and faintly said, "You are too slow to open the door." Qixia, who was a bit silly, was the first to react. His brain was not enough to analyze the current situation, but he remembered the scene when the black blade smashed his aunt's head. He roared and directly rushed to the blurred figure. "You killed my aunt!" Shua. Without any hesitation, the black blade flashed in the pale golden light. Qixia's tall figure was suddenly cut into two pieces. Blood splashed wantonly, and the living room filled with pale golden light shone with an extremely charming brilliance. Everyone was scared silly. They even felt that they were hallucinating. "Brother!" Qi Dong screamed and rushed over with a sobbing tone. But the golden light was getting more and more dazzling. He could not see his brother's body at all. In a trance, the boy could only angrily look at the direction of the figure wielding the blade. He clenched his fist and shouted, "You are a bad person." "I am indeed a bad person." The faint voice seriously responded to the boy's words. "You are still young and you don't understand. When a bad person's bottom line is touched, then they will become without a bottom line. I don't need anyone to understand some things." The black blade swam in the pale golden light. "I know it is wrong, but I have to do it." The blade smashed down. The small body flew directly. The heavy blade destroyed the opponent's vitality in an instant, and Qi Dong's body directly smashed into the study room. "Ah!" A sharp scream finally sounded. Qi Muling screamed with all his strength. "Don't come over. What do you want?" Buzz. In the violent buzzing sound, the golden light kept flowing. In the increasingly blurred light and shadow, the black blade came over. Puff. Warm blood was sprinkled all over the place. Body. The slim figure who was standing here just now was directly smashed by the blade. Blood and internal organs were scattered everywhere in the golden space. "Stop!" A voice full of rage suddenly sounded. The golden light suddenly fluctuated. An extremely majestic sword intent suddenly appeared in the living room. The golden light collided with the sword intent for a moment. Boom! The whole villa suddenly shattered, and the stones flew all over the sky. But they were held up by a huge force, and did not fall to the ground. All the people of the Qi family stood in the floating ruins, shivering. The villa was smashed, and all the scenes of the outside world completely appeared in front of them. At this moment, not only the people of the Qi family, even Gu Xingyan sucked in a breath of cold air. There was no scene in front of everyone. There was only light in front of them. It was soft and warm, but it was everywhere. The garden, the streets, and the buildings had completely disappeared. Everything was hidden in the pale golden light. It seemed that the endless light covered the world, extended from the other end of the street, and pulled out a river of light that was more than 2,000 meters long, occupying the entire red sandalwood street. It was vast and mighty. The whole street became extremely blurred and illusory in the light. Only the golden light, like the sun, became the only reality in the world. Gu Xingyun's body collapsed tightly, and his face was pale. Others might not know what it meant, but he could clearly feel the essence of these lights. This was sword light. The light, which was thousands of meters long and almost occupied the whole world, was sword light. The endless light was natural. This was a sword strike. Gu Xingyun didn't even dare to imagine how powerful this sword light, which was thousands of meters long, would be. But he knew very well that he couldn't stop this sword strike. Not to mention that he was seriously injured now. Even if he was in his heyday, he would have to pay a huge price in the face of this sword strike. Li Tianlan. Gu Xingyun opened his mouth slowly. His voice was extremely dry and full of fear. He couldn't figure out why this sword strike was so powerful. This momentum was even close to the peak of the invincible realm. In the golden light, the extremely vague and almost non-existent voice slowly opened its mouth, indifferent and indifferent. Do you want to die here? Gu Xingyun's body suddenly shook and he said angrily, Do you dare to kill me? In the golden light, Li Tianlan's voice also rose. Do you dare to force me? He didn't dare. Gu Xingyun really didn't dare. The mighty sword strike in the air was still undulating. Gu Xingyun felt the feeling of death more clearly than anyone else. He trembled slightly and took a deep breath. What do you want? Get away from me. It's none of your business. In the indifferent voice, the black blade flowed slightly in the golden light. Swish! In the desperate scream, Qi Muheng's head flew up into the sky. The golden light slowly spread. The scene gradually became clear. Li Tianlan's whole body became more and more illusory. But everyone saw the scene in front of them. Qi Muyu, Qi Muling, Qi Muheng. Qi Dong, Qi Xia. Blood was everywhere, and broken bodies were everywhere. Dong Dong. In the old voice, the old lady of the Qi family suddenly moved. Bang! Li Tianlan waved his hand. One punch. The heavy power shook the whole golden river, and the whole body of the old lady of the Qi family directly broke into a bloody mist. Stop! Gu Xingyun was furious. I'll count to 3. If you don't get away, don't go. Li Tianlan said calmly. Li Tianlan, you bully me too much. 3. There was no 1, and there was no 2. Li Tianlan directly counted to 3. The golden light all over the sky suddenly condensed, and the majestic sword intent tore most of the street in an instant. Li Tianlan raised his palm. Just at the moment when he was about to aim at Gu Xingyun, whose face changed dramatically, suddenly gritted his teeth. He didn't even have time to say a word. His whole body directly broke through the scope of the golden light, and instantly went away. He didn't even have time to take Qi Mulan away. Qi Mulan looked at Li Tianlan with a dead face. He and the whole family were just looking forward to the future of the Qi family. But they didn't expect the future of the Qi family to be like this. Mother, child, elder brother, younger sister, elder sister. The closest people all died in an instant. The rest of the Qi family subconsciously ran to Qi Mulan. Li Tianlan moved forward slowly. Li Tianlan, how dare you? Qi Mulan finally spoke, and his voice became extremely resentful in an instant. Li Tianlan slightly raised his finger. The sword energy entered the flowing light and instantly pierced Qi Mulan's thigh. Qi Mulan suddenly screamed and fell to the ground. Li Tianlan continued to move forward. Qi Mulan struggled to stand up, but under the severe pain, one leg had no strength at all. He kept retreating with his hands on the ground and said hysterically, Do you know what you are doing? Zhongzhou State will not let you go, absolutely not. Li Tianlan didn't speak. He didn't think Qi Mulan was qualified to talk to him. The sword light surrounded him again. Puff. In the dull sound, Qi Mulan's ankle was completely smashed by the sword energy. The severe pain made Qi Mulan faint, and he instantly woke up in the torture of the sword energy. He desperately retreated, and all the people of the Qi family also retreated. Li Tianlan was not in a hurry. The Golden River was still surging. Qi Mulan retreated all the way to the street. Li Tianlan moved forward indifferently and occasionally waved his hand. Blood kept flying out. The people of the chief family fell down one by one. Arms, thighs, heads, internal organs, and blood were scattered everywhere on the street. In the illusion, Li Tianlan watched this scene quietly. His expression was extremely cold, but deep in his eyes, there was almost brutal brutality. At this moment, he had no emotion at all, not even a little bit of humanity. I will kill you. I must kill you. I will report to Zhongzhou State. Li Tianlan, you will die a horrible death. Qi Mulan roared with blood-red eyes and took out his mobile phone with trembling hands. Crack. The sword energy directly smashed the mobile phone and pierced Qi Mulan's hand in an instant. In the blood, Qi Mulan retreated frantically. It didn't matter to him whether he could live or not. What he had to do was to struggle. The longer he delayed, the more likely the experts of Zhongzhou State would come. He could die. But Li Tianlan had to pay the price. He had to. Puff. In the dull sound, the chest of one of Qi Mulan's men exploded completely. Blood gushed out and poured all over Qi Mulan. Bang. Another person of the Qi family fell down. Woof woof woof. A pet dog of the Qi family barked and rushed over. Then it turned into a mass of flesh and blood in the golden light all over the sky. The last person of the Qi family also died in the Golden River. Only Qi Mulan was left. Qi Mulan screamed wildly and kept retreating with his bloody hands and limbs. Li Tianlan followed him unhurriedly. The sword energy kept flying in his hand and fell on Qi Mulan. Every inch of the bones in his legs was completely torn by the sword energy. Then his abdomen and sternum. The sharp sword energy shattered Qi Mulan's eyes. Just as he wanted to scream in despair, his tongue was also completely crushed by the sword intent. There was only dull and desperate whimpers left on the long street. The sword energy poured into his ears. Qi Mulan couldn't even hear his own whimpers. He couldn't see anything. He just gritted his teeth and kept retreating instinctively. One by one, his fingers were cut off by the sword energy. Then the palm, the forearm, the elbow, and the whole arm. Qi Mulan cried. Tears flowed from his bloody eyes. His body trembled violently, but he was still retreating. The street was full of blood and pieces of corpses. His body retreated for a distance of thousands of meters on the clean rosewood street. Along the way, he left a crooked but shocking bloodline. Li Tianlan moved forward step by step and quietly watched Qi Mulan's body retreat out of the rosewood street. His body finally stopped moving, but he was gasping for breath. You will die a horrible death. He cursed with the last of his strength. Fresh blood flowed out from all over his body. Li Tianlan looked at him quietly and didn't speak. Qi Mulan's breathing became lower and lower, and finally, there was no sound. Li Tianlan quietly looked at the body in front of him, which had no complete body, and the depth of his eyes became more and more indifferent. The long golden river was still flowing on the rosewood street. Powerful breaths appeared on the rosewood street one after another, but no one spoke. Li Tianlan stood in the golden light all over the sky, and no one could see his figure clearly, but everyone was silent. Li Tianlan then glanced at Qi Mulan's body and slowly turned around. The golden scene that filled the world disappeared in an instant. Li Tianlan also disappeared. It was still late at night. The dawn hadn't come yet. The red sandalwood street, which had been alarmed by the massacre, was lit up. Countless people carefully walked onto the street, looking at the blood and dismembered corpses scattered on the street. Looking at Qi Mulan, who was extremely miserable, everyone stayed where they were. The rosewood street was dead silent, and no one even dared to speak. The Qi family, which had just been in the limelight in the parliament tonight, was directly exterminated in less than 3 hours after the end of the meeting. Even a dog was not spared. And they were exterminated in such a brutal way. After a long time, a super rich man suddenly squatted down on the street and began to vomit. The experts who came to the rosewood street left as fast as they could and sent the news back, while the sky was still dark. Chapter 720. The screams and wails that had lasted for a long time had completely disappeared. The silent rosewood street grew colder and colder. The mighty golden river that almost illuminated the night sky of Yuzhou disappeared without a trace. All the people who were carefully observing the situation on the street hid at home as soon as they saw the scene on the street. The silent, cold, and bloody street looked extremely ghastly in the middle of the night, like a ghost town. The street lamps on both sides of the street had been completely smashed by the sword light. In the deep night, the starry sky and the bright moon on the horizon became extremely clear. Under the lonely starlight, several figures walked out of the mansion of number 3 Rosewood Street. They came to the dead body of Qi Mulan, and kept silent for a long time. There was no such thing as dying with a remaining grievance. Qi Mulan's eyes were blinded by the sword energy. His eyeballs were nowhere to be found, leaving only 2 horrible blood holes. The city mayor of Xianyuan City, who had attended the meeting of the parliament and dreamed of leading his family to the peak not long ago, had no intact flesh and blood on his body. In the long struggle, countless sword energy had raged on his body. Dense wounds spread all over his body from the top of his head to the bottom of his feet. Every bone in his body had been broken into pieces, and every blood vessel had been completely cut, so the bleeding was extremely uniform. He lay dead on the ground, like a piece of rotten meat covered with blood, without any support. He looked twisted and desperate. Yi Dongsheng watched this scene quietly. The face of the god of army of Zhongzhou State looked a little pale. Yi Dongsheng's family was also on Rosewood Street. He was a member of Parliament of Zhongzhou State and usually lived in Dragon Lake Park. But when guests came, he would usually return to Rosewood Street and entertain them and his family. After the meeting, Wang Jingxin did not return to Linen. Instead, she followed Yi Dongsheng to the Yi family. In addition to Wang Jingxin, Wang Shengxiao, who had attended Li Honghe's funeral, also stayed in the Yi family for some reason. As Wang Jingxin and Yi Dongsheng came back, Fan Tianyin, the Minister of Security of Zhongzhou State who was also waiting for the result of the meeting, also appeared in the Yi family's mansion, and discussed a series of consequences that might be caused by the meeting. Tiannan was extremely important to Zhongzhou State. For Li Tianlan, it was the most important thing. If there was no accident, the rise of Emperor Dong's palace in the future would be based on Tiannan. Li Tianlan would certainly not let go of the power to control Tiannan. It was also because of this that the Southeast Group did not agree to let Wang Jingxin go to Tiannan, because it meant a full-scale conflict with Li Tianlan, which was arduous and unrewarding. Now it was Qi Mulan who went there. While the members of the Southeast Group breathed a sigh of relief, they also had a general discussion about the possible situation in the future. They all agreed that even if Li Tianlan could suppress Qi Mulan in Tiannan, it would take a lot of effort to do so, which would slow down the development of Emperor Dong's palace. For the Wang family of Beihai, this was undoubtedly a good thing. They just needed to watch the fun. But no one had expected that the excitement would come so quickly, so decisively, and so brutally. Wang Shengxiao immediately noticed the change outside the window. The endless golden light covered the night sky without any warning. It was majestic, thick, stable, and real. Almost in an instant, the entire red sandalwood street was enveloped by that sword light. Tonight, the Qi family that was in the limelight was trembling in the sword light. Trembling in the sword light, despair, and then death. Now the sword light had disappeared, and more than a dozen people in the Qi family had completely disappeared. They disappeared completely. The whole Qi family seemed to have never existed. No one was left. All the people of the Qi family died under that sword light. Yi Dongsheng quietly looked at the corpses in front of him, and then at the long street full of blood and minced meat. A strong chill rose from his heart, almost freezing his will. In the countless blood and minced meat, he felt only madness. That kind of madness was mixed with brutality and overbearingness. It was unscrupulous, with killing intent and power that was enough to make everyone tremble. Brutal, decisive, straightforward, and cold-blooded. Li Tianlan's image was established overnight with the massacre of the whole family. The corner of Yi Dongsheng's mouth twitched, and he muttered to himself, "How cruel." I heard that Li Tianlan voluntarily resigned from the position of Marshal of Zhongzhou State, and the commander of the Snowdance Corps at the meeting? Wang Shengxiao, who had been silent, suddenly asked. Fan Tianyin was stunned and did not speak. Yi Dongsheng took a deep breath, nodded and said in a deep voice, "Yes," and his attitude is very firm. "Then it's a slap in the face." Wang Shengxiao nodded. "And it's a deliberate slap in the face." Yi Dongsheng smiled bitterly and did not speak, but he agreed with Wang Shengxiao very much in his heart. This time, Li Tianlan directly took action. Not only did he destroy the Qi family, but he also slapped the face. He slapped the face of the whole Zhongzhou state. In this state, Li Tianlan was like a real madman. He dared to risk universal condemnation, acted without scruples, and openly trampled on the rules. On the night that Qi Mulan's appointment was approved, the new mayor of Xianyuan City died on Rosewood Street in the most miserable and desperate state. For Zhongzhou state, this was equivalent to a slap in the face. This slap was really not light, and it could even be said to be bloody. In this matter, Li Tianlan did not intend to save anyone's face at all, including President Li Huaqing and Prime Minister Chen Fangqing. You can send someone to Xianyuan City. Whoever you send, I will kill. This was what Li Tianlan expressed, and it was very clear. It was tit for tat. Li Tianlan was the marshal of Zhongzhou state. If he did not resign in this meeting, his military rank and identity would undoubtedly become one of the bargaining chips when the Qi family was destroyed this time. Gu Xingyun had been proved to be useless. At least in the case that there were chosen ones and half-step chosen ones in the dark world. It was hard for people to have confidence in Gu Xingyun, who was not at the peak of the invincible realm. Li Tianlan's future was the most promising. If Li Tianlan was still the marshal, after he destroyed the Qi family, the high-level officials of Zhongzhou state would inevitably make Li Tianlan pay the price out of anger. And the biggest possibility might be to remove his military rank and the position of the commander of the Snowdance Corps. This was also an acceptable way of retreat for both sides. However, Li Tianlan had long planned to destroy the Qi family, but he took the initiative to resign from the position of marshal in the meeting. What did this mean? He did not want any compromise, or in other words, he could not compromise on this matter. I'm going to kill the people you sent, and I don't intend to pay any price. This was the real strength, not even half a step back. He is challenging the dignity of the entire Zhongzhou state. Fan Tianyin suddenly said coldly, Zhongzhou state must pay back this kind of humiliation. How? Wang Shengxiao laughed in a low voice. His voice was extremely complicated. Li Tianlan's future is indeed worth looking forward to. The future chosen one is also very important. But this is not a reason for Li Tianlan to be unscrupulous. Zhongzhou state is the world's most powerful country and has enough confidence. Even if there is no chosen one, Zhongzhou state will not be afraid of anyone. In contrast, in order to cultivate a chosen one, he tramples on the rules of Zhongzhou state unscrupulously. No one can afford such a consequence. Zhongzhou state is willing to tolerate Li Tianlan, but it does not mean that he is indispensable. First, the Tang family, then the Qi family. Is he the overall situation of Zhongzhou state? Maybe, but that is after he becomes the chosen one. Now Li Tianlan is not qualified. Fan Tianyin said blandly. This time he trampled on the bottom line of the entire Zhongzhou state. The bottom line is the bottom line because it is a forbidden area that cannot be touched. He took a deep breath and said calmly, the Ministry of State Security will issue a document and directly convict Li Tianlan. His figure was completely shrouded in the darkness. His voice was extremely heavy. Treason. Zhongzhou state will declare war on Emperor Dong's palace today. Li Tianlan can't live, and there is no need for Emperor Dong's palace to exist. Without Li Tianlan, Zhongzhou state can still take down Tiannan. When saying this, Fan Tianyin's eyes quietly looked at Yi Dongsheng. Yi Dongsheng was a member of Zhongzhou state, the deputy minister of the army headquarters, and the minister of the General Staff Department. If they joined hands, it represented the attitude of the Ministry of State Security and the General Staff Department. The joint document issued by the two departments must be discussed at the meeting of the parliament. What Li Tianlan did tonight had gone too far. Li Tianlan had shown his cruel and bloodthirsty brutality. Li Huaqing was bound to give up Li Tianlan. Even if Dongqing Wudi still supported him, few in the giant group dared to continue to play with him. He had gone too far. Even if someone spoke up for him, there was no suitable reason. Moreover, as a dangerous person who dared to kill senior officials of Zhongzhou state at will, who did not want him to die quickly. Once the Ministry of State Security and the General Staff Department issued a joint document, Li Tianlan would inevitably be given up by Zhongzhou state. Fan Tianyin was full of confidence. However, he only saw a bitter smile on Yi Dongxing's face, because he had been paying attention to Wang Shengxiao's expression, and saw the complicated helplessness on Wang Shengxiao's face. It's not easy to deal with this, Yi Dongxing said slowly. There's nothing difficult about it, Fan Tianyin said flatly. This is Zhongzhou State. There are always some rules that can't be broken. Otherwise, the whole system will be shaken, which is very dangerous. Yes, Uncle Fan is right, Wang Shengxiao said softly. There are always some rules that can't be trampled. The bitter smile on Yi Dongxing's face became more and more obvious. He took a deep breath, slowly turned around, and said in a deep voice, "Let's go back first." Anger, shame, resentment, killing intent, and unwillingness. All of these emotions were constantly condensing in his heart. His face was twisted, and he saw stars in front of his eyes. Blood kept pouring out of his body. In the darkness of the night, he staggered to the front of an old-fashioned courtyard house. He reached out and slammed on the door. In the dead of night, there was a response in the courtyard almost immediately. It was vigilant and piercingly cold. "Who is it?" "It's me." The angry, almost deformed voice seemed to be squeezed out from his teeth. But this voice was also very familiar to those who were familiar with him. In the rapid footsteps, the gate of the courtyard was pulled open. His figure swayed, and he almost fell. "Your Highness." It was a man in his 30s who opened the door. He didn't expect the scene in front of him at all. In great shock, he subconsciously held the bloody body. "What's going on? Who dares to attack Your Highness in Yuzhou?" The man suddenly raised his eyebrows, angry and fierce. "Go in and talk." Gu Xingyin took a deep breath, barely stabilized his body, and walked into the courtyard. The man who opened the door arranged Gu Xingyin into his bedroom, and hurriedly went to find the medicine box. His expression was a mixture of anger and worry, which was very real. Gu Xingyin was a little moved. This was his confidant who had followed him for many years. He was Major General Yang Xiaojie, the executive deputy director of the Yuzhou Special Operations Bureau. Gu Xingyin had been staying in Yuzhou for many years, and had cultivated a great force. Yang Xiaojie's position might not be the highest, but at the most critical moment, Gu Xingyin first thought of him. "Xiaojie, don't be so busy. It's not as serious as you think." Gu Xingyin took a deep breath and said in a low voice, "Prepare a private plane for me. I'll go back to Kunlun City overnight. I'll do it right away." Yang Xiaojie paused and put all the medicine he found in front of Gu Xingyin. Then he took out his mobile phone and began to arrange the private plane without hesitation. He didn't even ask why Gu Xingyin was in such a hurry. In less than 3 minutes, Yang Xiaojie's order came back. He looked at his mobile phone and whispered, "Your Highness, the helicopter will arrive in half an hour." Gu Xingyin nodded. After a long silence he whispered, "It's Li Tianlan." Yang Xiaojie suddenly opened his eyes and said angrily, "He dares to attack you in Yuzhou. Does he want to die?" Gu Xingyin was seriously injured now. Li Tianlan's series of achievements showed that he was powerful now. It was not surprising that Gu Xingyin was no match for Li Tianlan. What surprised him was that Li Tianlan dared to attack Gu Xingyin in Yuzhou. Who gave him the courage? "Not only to me." Gu Xingyun's expression was a little ferocious. "The Qi family is finished. That little bastard directly attacked the Qi family and forced me to retreat. Now the Qi family should have been destroyed. This bastard, he deserves to die." Yang Xiaojie's face changed dramatically, and his eyes flashed with killing intent. When old Li was in the camp, he shouldn't have let them live. Now there will be endless troubles. Yes. Gu Xingyin took a deep breath and lit a cigarette. His face was a little gloomy. Not only at that time, but in recent years. "Hey, Xiaojie, in recent years I missed too many opportunities." At this moment, Gu Xingyin really regretted it. The Li family had stayed in the border camp for more than 20 years. Gu Xingyin had tried every means to weaken the Li family's power and make the people in the camp less and less, but he had never thought of destroying the Li family once and for all. Not only in the past 20 years, but also in the last 3 years, he had too many opportunities. If he had killed Li Tianlan at the first time when he learned that Li Tianlan came to the secular world, he might have encountered a lot of trouble. But compared to now, those troubles were nothing at all. Zhongzhou State would not completely fall out with him because of a young man with potential. But now Gu Xingyun's mouth twitched. What's your plan now, Your Highness? Yang Xiaojie did not comfort Gu Xingyun. He knew him very well, and Gu Xingyun did not need any comfort. No plan. Gu Xingyun shook his head. Now you don't have to care about anything. Xiaojie, Yuzhou Special Operations Bureau, you have to take good care of yourself in the future. I want to return to Kunlun City as soon as possible. Before I recover. Even if Kunlun City is destroyed, I will not show up again. When I recover. There was a flash of killing intent in his eyes. He had now seen the way to the peak of the invincible realm. As long as his injury recovered, he would definitely break through again and go straight to the peak of the invincible realm. He had decided that at that time, he would take action at all costs, abandon all concerns, abandon all rules, and directly kill Li Tianlan. As long as Li Tianlan was killed and he resisted all the influences, Kunlun City could be completely at ease in the future. Gu Xingyun bit off the cigarette, and was silent for a long time. Then he suddenly said, "Hurry me up. I want to go back as soon as possible. The sooner the better." Compared with Li Tianlan, who was making progress and getting stronger every day, his injury really could not be delayed any longer. It was a race against time. The hidden dragon sea was about to usher in the dawn. At the end of the night, Li Huaqing had breakfast. He had not rested for more than a day and a night, but he did not feel sleepy at all. For some reason, Li Huaqing always felt a little uneasy. After thinking for a long time, he was sure that the problem was with Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan said that he was going to the Qi family. Li Huaqing did not know what he was going to do, but since he left the hidden dragon sea, Li Huaqing had always been a little uneasy. After eating breakfast tastelessly, Li Huaqing sat in the study and dealt with a few documents. Just as he was about to make himself a cup of tea, the phone suddenly rang. Li Huaqing's eyebrows twitched. He grabbed the phone and said hello in a steady voice. "President, this is Chen Fangqing. Do you have time? There is an emergency, and I need to communicate with you." Li Huaqing did not hesitate and said with a smile, then asked the Prime Minister to come over. Chen Fangqing answered in a hurry and hung up the phone directly. The moment the phone was hung up, the door of the study was suddenly pushed open. The secretary who had been with Li Huaqing for many years almost rushed in, and his voice became a little sharp. "President." Li Huaqing looked up in amazement, but his heart sank slightly. He knew his secretary very well. Something big must have happened since he was so anxious. "What's the matter?" Li Huaqing took a deep breath and asked in a deep voice. The Qi family is finished." The secretary's voice was filled with countless emotions. "Qi Mulan is dead?" Li Huaqing was shocked. Not only Qi Mulan, but all the people of the Qi family are dead. Just now, nearly 20 people of the Qi family, including the elderly, children, and women, including Qi Mulan, all died without a whole body. The secretary's voice was filled with obvious horror. As Li Huaqing's secretary, his rank was the same as Qi Mulan's. He could be said to be a real high-ranking official. He had seen too many so-called big events, but none of them was as shocking as this. Li Huaqing's body suddenly shook, and he held the table. He tried to digest this joy. After a while he said in a low voice, "Who is it? Who else can it be? It's Li Tianlan." Before the secretary spoke, Chen Fangqing's voice had sounded. He strode into the study, and his voice seemed to contain endless thunder, with undisguised anger. "Zhongzhou State has just approved Qi Mulan's appointment, but his Qi family was directly exterminated. What does Li Tianlan want to do? What does he want to do? Does he still care about Zhongzhou State? Does he care about the parliament of Zhongzhou State? Even if Qi Mulan is not the mayor of Xianyuan City, he is still the deputy minister of the Ministry of Security. He is lawless, simply lawless." Li Huaqing's heart had sunk to the bottom. His eyes became incomparably cold and determined in an instant. "Is there any information on the scene?" he asked directly. "There is no useful information." Chen Fangqing took out a flash drive and handed it to Li Huaqing. It was a video taken by the surveillance at the time of the incident. The video was presented on the big screen in the study. A little golden light first appeared on the quiet Rosewood Street. The extremely quiet and very real golden light kept expanding at the end of the street, like a rising sun. The seemingly warm light kept extending, almost covering a 3-kilometer street in the blink of an eye. Gu Xingyun's angry voice sounded, but there was no response in the video. Then came the screams and roars of the Qi family. The scalp-numbing wailing spread directly from the villa to the street. There was only golden light, only wailing, and nothing else on the screen. Li Huaqing was silent for a long time before he slowly said, "There is no Li Tianlan?" There is no him on the screen, but it doesn't mean that he didn't do it. These golden lights are all sword qi. How many swordsmanship masters have reached this level of strength, not to mention Zhongzhou State, even in today's dark world? Who else can it be except Li Tianlan? Chen Fangqing forcibly suppressed his inner anger, and his voice was extremely cold. Li Huaqing also agreed with this view. He silently handed Chen Fangqing a cigarette and calmly said, "What do you want to do?" Li Tianlan is a talent, even can be said to be a genius. Chen Fangqing took a deep drag on the cigarette and said lightly, "But there are advantages and disadvantages to a talented person. It depends on how he conducts himself. But in a series of performances of Li Tianlan, I don't see how his talent will benefit Zhongzhou State. On the contrary, this kind of person who tramples the rules at will is the most dangerous. Zhongzhou State cannot have a heavenly son, but it can't have a lawless heavenly son." Chen Fangqing had obviously thought it through, so he answered without hesitation. Li Huaqing slightly raised his eyebrows and said, "So? Give up Li Tianlan and destroy Emperor Dong's palace. Li Tianlan will be sentenced to death for treason." Chen Fangqing's tone was extremely firm. Li Huaqing frowned more and more, and it was not easy for him to make a decision. He was not entangled in things like benevolence and righteousness. Li Tianlan destroyed the Qi family, which was too fast and too simple. Even Li Huaqing felt the kind of danger that made him uneasy at this time. This kind of danger came from Li Tianlan. The first time he heard the news, he had already considered whether it was the right decision to cooperate with Li Tianlan. Chen Fangqing was right. Zhongzhou State could not have a heavenly son, but it really could not have a lawless lunatic. Zhongzhou State could not afford such a lunatic. Give up Li Tianlan. Li Huaqing hesitated for a moment, and then made up his mind. What kind of people were he and Chen Fangqing? One was the president, and the other was the prime minister. They were the two most powerful people in Zhongzhou State. At the critical moment, there would be no hesitation at all. Today, Li Tianlan dared to kill a senior official at the level of deputy governor. No matter how much Li Huaqing appreciated Li Tianlan, he could not let him continue to kill a senator. Give up Li Tianlan and destroy Emperor Dong's palace. He narrowed his eyes and suddenly said, "What about the giant group?" There is no need to estimate the giant group. Li Tianlan is a lunatic. He does make contributions to Zhongzhou State, but what I see is only greater harm. Today Qi Mulan died, and tomorrow, it may even be you and me. Anyone who may hurt his interests should be frightened. If he enters the invincible realm, or even becomes a heavenly son, won't the whole Zhongzhou State have to act according to his will? Such a thing is not what the giant group wants to see. Most of their forces will support us. The only one we need to worry about is Minister Dongcheng. Chen Fangqing said calmly. Li Huaqing thought seriously and said lightly, "Go on." It's simple. In the name of the parliament and the cabinet, announce that Li Tianlan has committed treason. The 9 directors must sign. Minister Dongcheng can refuse to sign, but he must deal with Li Tianlan personally. Otherwise, he will also be punished for treason. Chen Fangqing said without hesitation. Li Huaqing's heart suddenly shook, and he said in a low voice, "Dongcheng Wudi is a director of Zhongzhou State." There was one thing he didn't say. In today's sensitive situation, Dongcheng Wudi was the actual helmsman of the military, and his status might not be worse than Chen Fangqing, the prime minister. Everyone has the possibility of treason, and no one can violate the laws of Zhongzhou State. Chen Fangqing was unmoved and said, "Dongcheng Wudi can't protect Li Tianlan, and no one can protect Li Tianlan." Li Huaqing took a deep breath. This time he did not make a clear statement. He could accept giving up Li Tianlan because Li Tianlan touched the bottom line of the whole Zhongzhou State. The extermination of the Qi family, was equivalent to Li Tianlan slapping the parliament of Zhongzhou State in the face. It was bloody and powerful. The parliament of Zhongzhou State would naturally be furious after being dizzy. Giving up Li Tianlan was acceptable to most people, but giving up the giant group would have too much influence. Li Huaqing rubbed his forehead to relieve his physical fatigue. He was silent for a full 5 minutes, and then he said in a low voice, "Did the members of parliament leave last night?" "Probably not. They should all be resting now." Chen Fangqing shook his head. In this case, Li Huaqing took a deep breath and said decisively, "Hold another plenary meeting of the parliament. On this matter, everyone needs to make their attitudes clear." "What about Li Tianlan?" Chen Fangqing followed up with a question. "Arrest him." Without any hesitation, Li Huaqing said directly in a cold tone and expressionless face. Chen Fangqing nodded. He was not surprised by Li Huaqing's attitude. Li Tianlan's madness was beyond everyone's expectation. It was inevitable for Li Huaqing to give up Li Tianlan. Not only Li Huaqing, but also the academics, the giant group, the prince group, the special warfare group, the southeast group, and the north group would not support Li Tianlan. Such a madman who dared to kill high-ranking officials, and even exterminate the whole family, could not be forgiven in any country in the world. This was the most basic bottom line and rule. If he survived this time, when he grew up in the future, this so-called heavenly sun might have become a knife hanging over everyone's head before he shocked the dark world. At that time he could kill whoever he wanted, and the whole Zhongzhou state would be ruled under his shadow for decades. Killing Qi Mulin was a small matter, but Li Tianlan's approach was tantamount to challenging the system of the whole Zhongzhou state. No one could allow such a thing to happen. So Li Tianlan was bound to die. At the foot of Green Mountain, the Bai family manor. Li Tianlan did not return to Prince Yang's mansion. After leaving Rosewood Street, he went directly to the Bai family manor. If he was right, when the news got out, Dongqing Wudi and Bai Zhanfang would meet him. However, even Li Tianlan did not expect that Dongqing Wudi's reaction would be so intense. As soon as he walked near the Bai family manor, Dongqing Wudi's phone call came directly. Li Tianlan silently took out his mobile phone, pressed the answer button, and said hello. "Where are you?" Dongqing Wudi was not polite at all, and his loud voice was full of anger that could not be concealed. "I'll be at the gate of the manor right now." Li Tianlan smiled. "Minister, I smile. You're still in the mood to smile? Bastard minister? What minister? My daughter has been given to you, and you still call me minister? Minister? Bastard, look what you've done. Get in here right now." "Wudi." On the phone, Bai Zhanfang's voice rang. Dongqing Wudi panted heavily. Seeing that Li Tianlan did not make a sound, he suddenly became furious again. The roar of the minister of the army headquarters almost rang through the mountains and fields through the phone. "Where is he? Bastard, get over here right now. If you dare to run, I'll beat you to death today. Don't dawdle, hurry up." Li Tianlan's ears were buzzing, and he subconsciously took the phone away. It seemed that since the first contact, Dongqing Wudi had been very kind, and Li Tianlan was also very polite to him. But now this sudden scolding did not make Li Tianlan feel any discomfort. On the contrary, he even felt a little close and moved. Dongqing Wudi's anger was genuine. Perhaps he didn't know it himself, but his mood reflected his attitude. Li Tianlan knew what he had done tonight. He had openly trampled on the bottom line and face of Zhongzhou state. But even at this time, Dongqing Wudi and Bai Zhanfang still did not intend to give up on him. Li Tianlan stood at the gate of the manor, took a deep breath, calmed down, and went straight into the manor. Standing in front of the villa in the manor, he knocked on the door. Bai Qingzhao, the Deputy Secretary General of the Army Headquarters, opened the door in person. He glared at Li Tianlan and seemed to want to say something. Finally, he lowered his voice and said, "Go in. Don't confront your father. Behave yourself." "My father?" Li Tianlan looked stunned. "Rushi's father. If not your father, then what is he?" Bai Qingzhao was a little annoyed. "Hurry up and go in. Don't talk nonsense. I'm Rushi's uncle, and you have to call me uncle too." Bai Qingzhao pulled him into the living room. Dongqing Wudi sat in the living room, and his face was as black as the bottom of a pot. The moment he saw Li Tianlan, He stood up directly and seemed to want to rush over, but then he felt something wrong. He picked up a teacup and wanted to smash it, but when the teacup felt the warm tea, he put it back, picked up a pillow, and threw it directly at Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan did not dodge, and let the pillow fall on him. It did not hurt or itch. Minister. Li Tianlan coughed and said, Secretary Bai. Bai Zhanfeng nodded with a smile. Dongqing Wudi's temper seemed to have been completely ignited. You still have the face to talk? Get over here and stand. Bastard, I'll beat you to death today. Minister, don't be angry. Calm down and have a cigarette. Li Tianlan scratched his head, and seemed to want to flatter him. But he really couldn't put on a cheeky smile, so the action of taking out the cigarette gave people the feeling that he was taking out a gun, hard and very serious. The corners of the Bai family's mouth kept twitching, and they were speechless. Dongqing Wudi took the cigarette dully and glared at Li Tianlan. It seemed that he wanted to throw the cigarette in his face, but in the end he silently lit it. He suppressed his inner anger, clenched his fists and said dully, Your Aunt Bai will be here soon. Let's discuss how to deal with this matter. There's nothing to worry about. Li Tianlan said softly, Minister, don't worry. It's okay. Do you know what you did tonight? Dongqing Wudi looked at Li Tianlan coldly and said in a deep voice, How dare you say it's okay? Seeing that Dongqing Wudi was about to get angry again, Bai Zhanfeng frowned and said, Wudi, listen to what Tianlan has to say first. What's the hurry? Dongqing Wudi bit his cheek hard and said coldly with a dark face, Say it. Bai Zhanfeng lit a cigarette with a smile and looked at Li Tianlan. As the speaker of Yuzhou, he naturally knew how serious this matter was. At least he could not see any turning point, but he also believed in Li Tianlan, because of Li Tianlan's attitude towards the Dongqing clan and the giant group. The giant group had always been impeccable to Li Tianlan, and even supported him at all costs. But in the face of this support, Li Tianlan showed extreme hesitation several times. This hesitation was not pretentious, but a kind of hesitation. Such hesitation, to be specific, was that Li Tianlan was afraid that he could not bear the future of the giant group. This was undoubtedly Li Tianlan's sense of responsibility. Bai Zhanfeng believed that Li Tianlan, with such a sense of responsibility, might be crazy, but after he had borne the future of the giant group, no matter how crazy he was, he would not lead the giant group into a desperate situation. I know. Li Tianlan nodded. I just wiped out the Qi family. Just. Dongqing Wudi suddenly became angry. What level is Qi Mulan at? How many people do you think there are at this level in the whole Zhongzhou state? Not to mention him, it will be a big trouble for you to kill a person at a lower level than him. Have you figured out the situation? This is the most basic bottom line of the Zhongzhou state system. Even if I risk my life this time, it will be hard for me to protect you. Especially if you use that method to kill a family. You. Dongqing Wudi gritted his teeth hard, and his chest kept rising and falling. When the meeting was adjourned, Dongqing Wudi knew that Li Tianlan wanted to establish his power, but he did not expect it to be in such a way. This way was indeed a way to establish his power. But the key was how could Li Tianlan gain a foothold in the future? Boy, in any country, the most basic rules and bottom lines of a system cannot be trampled, no matter who he is. Do you understand? I understand. Li Tianlan nodded with a smile. So this time, there will be no problem. Why? Dongqing Wudi raised his eyebrows. Because there are always some rules that cannot be trampled, Li Tianlan said quietly. Chapter 721. There were always some rules that couldn't be trampled. When he said this, Li Tianlan's expression was unusually calm and full of confidence. Dongqing Wudi paused for a moment and looked at Bai Zhanfeng. They both saw doubt in each other's eyes. The fact that Li Tianlan could say this proved that he was very sober. At least he was not insane as the outside world thought. But this sentence could have nailed Li Tianlan to death. Now, judging from his tone, it turned out that it was also what he was relying on. Where did this confidence come from? Are you sure you can get out of this unscathed? Dongqing Wudi asked in a deep voice after taking a deep breath and gradually calming down from his manic state. When he received the news that the Qi family had been exterminated, Dongqing Wudi directly overturned the table in his office. Li Tianlan's current status was enough to make people look at him directly. Dongqing Wudi understood that he wanted to establish his prestige, but there were many ways to do so. In his opinion, Li Tianlan chose the most irrational way. The sword light that filled the whole street almost clearly showed the identity of the perpetrator. At least in today's Zhongzhou state, only Li Tianlan could have such abundant sword energy. There was no shadow of Li Tianlan in the video, but this didn't prove anything at all. The most important thing was that Li Tianlan dared to do this, and obviously he didn't intend to hide anything. He participated in the meeting of the Zhongzhou State Parliament. After the meeting, he crushed the Qi family in a grand manner, and wiped out the Qi family. This slap made the whole Zhongzhou state bloody and dizzy. Dongqing Wudi rushed to the Bai family's manor as soon as possible and scolded Li Tianlan along the way. At the same time, he called all the important figures of the giant group urgently, ready to clean up Li Tianlan's mess, and even ready to let Li Tianlan leave Zhongzhou state temporarily. In this matter, Dongqing Wudi saw no way out for Li Tianlan. Qi Mulan's life or death was not important. What mattered was that his appointment represented the will of Zhongzhou state, which was the most basic bottom line and principle that could not be trampled. To say the least, even if Qi Mulan went to Tiannan, Li Tianlan could take action and make up a reason to frame someone else. It would be much better than him killing the whole Qi family on Rosewood Street. Li Tianlan certainly understood this, but he still did it. He did it blatantly, and scrupulously, and without any taboo. He killed so many people that the whole Rosewood Street was covered with blood and mutilated corpses. Since he could do this, he was not afraid of Zhongzhou State's suspicion at all. He even hoped that Zhongzhou State would confirm that he did it. Establishing dominance? Once the news got out, Li Tianlan would indeed establish his prestige. But in this matter, how could Li Tianlan escape unscathed? Of course. Meeting Dongqing Wudi's gaze, Li Tianlan nodded calmly. Tell me your thoughts. Be more specific. Dongqing Wudi said in a deep voice. Li Tianlan lit a cigarette unhurriedly. His eyes were a little dazed. Minister, you should know how Tiannan came to be, right? Of course I know. Dongqing Wudi grunted. Then how did it come about? Li Tianlan asked seriously. More than 3 years ago, the 5 dark forces united with Annan State to invade the border of Zhongzhou State. Senior Li raised the flag of Zhongzhou State on the border front and fought bloody battles with the elites of the Li family on the border. They inflicted heavy losses on the 5 dark forces and the rebel army of Annan State. The Thunderbolt Battalion of the Border Control Corps and the Blood Battalion jointly broke through and went straight into the territory of Annan State, which is today's Tiannan. Dongqing Wudi said slowly. Li Tianlan said. That's the most complete statement. How did Annan come about? In the most official statement, the border conflict broke out more than 3 years ago. Dongqing Wudi, the god of massacre of Zhongzhou State, led the Border Control Corps to beat the 5 forces, and finally went deep into Annan State to help Annan put down the rebellion. Finally, they fought their way out of Tiannan. In this story, the role of Zhongzhou State was a friend of Annan State. They entered Annan State to help Annan put down the rebellion. The most critical point was that there was no report on the achievements of the Li family and the deeds of Li Honghe. But this was crucial. If Li Honghe and the elites of the Li family hadn't severely damaged the power of the 5 forces and the rebel army, although Dongqing Wudi could have defeated the enemy at that time, it would have been difficult for him to enter the territory of Annan State in the first place. However, this point had been covered up by Zhongzhou State for more than 3 years. According to this statement, the conquest of Tiannan has the credit of the minister and part of the credit of the Li family, right? Li Tianlan asked. Dongqing Wudi said, he seemed to be thinking about something. If the Li family is still at its peak and conquered Tiannan with the Dongqing clan, how should we divide it? Li Tianlan asked again. Dongqing Wudi was stunned. Before he could answer, Li Tianlan's voice had sounded, no need to divide it. I'm the young master of the Li family, but I'm also the son-in-law of the Dongqing clan. The minister has only 2 daughters. Brother-in-law is now developing in the political circle, so can the Tiannan that you and the Li family conquered together be mine? Of course. Dongqing Wudi said without hesitation. It's a matter of course. He hesitated and continued. but it can also be regarded as Zhongzhou State's. But Zhongzhou State can't admit it now, Li Tianlan said blandly, and I admit it. I've always admitted that Tiannan is mine and a part of Zhongzhou State. Bai Zhanfang, who had been silent, suddenly brightened his eyes for a moment. The content of this sentence was really familiar. Zhongzhou State has acquiesced to the development of Emperor Dong's palace in Tiannan. The future of the Freedom Corps is also to join Emperor Dong's palace. Emperor Dong's palace will control Tiannan and announce its surrender to Zhongzhou State. This is part of Zhongzhou State's plan. In this plan, I want to ask the directors of Zhongzhou State what position do they put me in? Dong Qingwudi's eyes also brightened slightly. To put it bluntly, Tiannan can now be regarded as my property. It doesn't belong to Zhongzhou State yet. As long as I have the ability, this is my private property. I set up Xianyuan City in my private territory and reported it to the parliament. I'm giving them face, but they are shameless. It's serious that I killed Qi Mulan. Maybe I touched some bottom line, but obviously, some people still don't know what they have touched. I elected a mayor in my private territory, outside Zhongzhou State. Where do they get the right to tell me what to do? Shameless. Li Tianlan's voice was unusually cold and overbearing. So, Dong Qingwudi finally understood. At this moment, his body was completely relaxed. The first mayor of Xianyuan City can only be Ning Qiancheng. Whether it's Qi Mulan or Wang Jingxin, once this precedent is set, it's very dangerous. So now the person who needs to worry the most is not me. How to deal with this matter has nothing to do with me. Li Tianlan said lightly. I just killed some people. Bai Zhanfang looked at Li Tianlan for a long time. There was some appreciation in his eyes and some emotion in them. Tianlan, if you are willing to go into politics, your future may not be worse than that in Tiannan. Li Tianlan smiled and shook his head. The twists and turns in officialdom were too complicated. If he really limited himself to fighting with those old foxes in Zhongzhou State in a certain field, Li Tianlan didn't think he could gain any advantage. He undoubtedly couldn't see the delicate joints clearly. He just accurately grasped some of the most basic principles. The president, Dong Qingwudi, hesitated for a moment. The rift has existed for a long time, and it has always existed. The premise of cooperation is that both sides benefit. This is the only premise. If this premise doesn't exist, cooperation is naturally unnecessary. The key depends on how the president chooses. I may owe the academics, but we don't owe the academics. Li Tianlan said calmly. For more than 3 years, not only the giant group had been cooperating with the academics, but also the Samsara Palace had been cooperating with the academics. Sai City, which Li Tianlan could best represent, was also getting closer and closer to the academics. With these three forces, the academics had developed extremely strongly in recent years. They might have helped Li Tianlan, but Li Tianlan had also given them enough reports. In politics, there was no such thing as owing them. The only possibility for the cooperation between the two forces was interests. If Li Huaqing thought that the cooperation between the two sides was no longer suitable to continue, then it was almost time to shed all pretenses of cordiality. Friends or enemies, in the treacherous general trend, were always changing. Zhongzhou State is expected to hold another plenary session of the parliament. I didn't show up on Rosewood Street to give them a fig leaf, but I will tell them personally that I killed Qi Mulan and his family, and whoever is dissatisfied, just hold it in. This matter won't end so easily, Bai Qingzhao suddenly said. It's not difficult to get out unscathed. It's nothing more than a matter of taking a break for a while. Dong Qingwudi looked at Li Tianlan with soft eyes. He had just lost his composure and shouted abuse, but it didn't alienate them. Instead, it made them more intimate. Boy, it's good to take a break for a while. It's time to calm down. Li Tianlan bowed slightly and said softly, I'm mentally prepared. Number 3 Rosewood Street. The lights were still on in the Yi family's villa. The night was still dark, but lights were flashing everywhere on the street. Groups of police cars arrived at the villa as soon as possible. They cordoned off the scene and investigated and collected evidence. It was busy and lively. It was quiet in the living room. 15 minutes ago, Vice President Wan Qingyan of Zhongzhou State and director of the Ministry of Supervision of Zhongzhou State Ji Wenzhong came at the same time. They followed Yi Dongsheng. Wang Shengxiao and Fan Tianyin entered the study together. Wang Jingxin didn't go over. He just sat in the living room and didn't even care about what was being discussed in the study at this time. Ji Wenzhong and Wan Qingyan were invited by Wang Shengxiao. These two were now the top leaders of the Southeast group. As juniors, Wang Shengxiao should take the initiative to visit them, but he didn't do so. At such a sensitive time, the heir of the Wang family of Beihai didn't go to Hidden Dragon Sea, or even to Dragon Lake Park where Yi Dongxing lived. Instead, he chose to meet them at the Yi family, which was enough to explain the problem. Ji Wenzhong and Wan Qingyan still arrived on time, which also explained the problem. If it were in the past, Wang Jingxin could naturally detect that something was wrong, but now he didn't pay any attention to it. His mind was full of the blood flowing on Rosewood Street and Qi Mulin's body. He held the cup with both hands, and the warm tea kept swirling in the cup, causing ripples after ripples, just like Wang Jingxin's mood. His face was pale, and his eyes were full of fear and relief. To be honest, he was really scared by Li Tianlan. Apart from Qi Mulin, there were almost no complete corpses of the Qi family. The hellish and miserable scene was still vivid in Wang Jingxin's mind. The more Wang Jingxin didn't want to recall it, the clearer the scene in her mind was. This sense of immersion was too strong, so strong that his body was trembling slightly. Li Tianlan was a madman. After tonight's events, anyone could have confirmed this. Wang Jingxin was completely sure that if the person elected as the new mayor of Xianyuan City tonight was him instead of Qi Mulin, the number 3 Rosewood Street, Shu, Linen, the branch family of the Wang family of Beihai that belonged to Wang Jingxin, would almost be exterminated by Li Tianlan. Qi Mulin's ending would be his ending. Now Li Tianlan really had no scruples. The Wang family of Beihai, Kunlun City? Everything in his eyes was exactly the same. At this moment, Wang Jingxin's heart was full of fear, but also with the joy of surviving a disaster, and a little anger. As a candidate to compete with Qi Mulin for the mayor of Xianyuan City, Qi Mulin's tragic death was bound to have an impact on Wang Jingxin, and the extent of the impact depended on Li Tianlan's ending. If Li Tianlan could get out of this storm unscathed, his prestige in Lin was bound to suffer a fatal blow. He and Qi Mulin were pushed out together. No matter what the reason was, at least on the surface, they were at the same level. It was a level, not a level. That was to say, if Li Tianlan could get out unscathed after killing Qi Mulin, then it would not be a problem for him to kill Wang Jingxin. Lin was the Li family's territory, Li Tianlan's territory. In Li Tianlan's territory, following Wang Jingxin and going against the Li family? After the Qi family was exterminated, if Li Tianlan could be safe and sound, there would really not be many people who dared to continue to follow Wang Jingxin. In other words, he could not stay in Lin any longer. He did not lose to Zhou Yuanshan, but was forced to leave by Li Tianlan. Wang Jingxin put down the teacup, gritted his teeth, hesitated, took out his mobile phone, and began to dial. When the number was dialed halfway, footsteps were heard upstairs. Wan Qingyun, Ji Wenzhong, Yi Dongsheng, Wang Shengxiao, Fan Tianyin, and everyone else came down from upstairs with solemn expressions. The two council giants did not say much, just nodded to Wang Jingxin, and then quickly went out. Yi Dongxing followed them closely. Wang Jingxin looked at the backs of these people, and his eyes were a little confused. The president decided to hold another plenary meeting of the parliament, and they have to go there as soon as possible. Wang Shengxiao explained. Wang Jingxin, who was confused, said and did not say much. Wang Shengxiao turned to look at Fan Tianyin, hesitated, and said slowly, "Uncle Fan, you must be careful." "Don't worry, I understand." Fan Tianyin nodded and patted Wang Shengxiao on the shoulder. "You talk first, I'll arrange it." "Be careful of what? Where is Minister Fan going?" Wang Jingxin finally noticed that something was wrong and asked in surprise. Fan Tianyin hurried out, and did not answer the question. Wang Shengxiao was silent for a while, and then slowly said, "Zhongzhou State has issued a document." Wang Jingxin raised his eyebrows. Wang Shengxiao's usually calm and gentle expression suddenly became a little gloomy. The Zhongzhou State Parliament, the cabinet, the army headquarters and Kunlun City jointly issued a document defining Li Tianlan as an important suspect in the Qi family's massacre. 10 minutes ago, the official document has been sent to the Ministry of State Security and even to various agencies in Yuzhou. Li Huaqing personally signed the order, asking the Ministry of State Security, the General Staff Headquarters, Kunlun City, the Special Operations Bureau of Yuzhou, the Shadow Sect, and various special warfare organizations in Yuzhou to send people to arrest Li Tianlan. The Ministry of State Security is a little late, and it is estimated that the people of the Special Operations Bureau of Yuzhou are already on the way. So fast. Wang Jingxin was suddenly shocked and stood up directly. He could not believe that Zhongzhou State's attitude would be so resolute this time. In less than a few hours after the incident, they directly made a decision to arrest Li Tianlan. However, although it was an arrest, Zhongzhou State had not officially convicted Li Tianlan. It just said that he was a major suspect in the Qi family's massacre. For a moment, Wang Jingxin could not figure out whether this major suspect was to leave room for compromise or to stabilize Li Tianlan first. With the current power of Yuzhou, especially the power sent to arrest Li Tianlan, it seemed difficult to keep Li Tianlan. But if Li Tianlan resisted, it would be a real treason. Zhongzhou State's territory of tens of millions of square kilometers was under the feet of the emperor. No matter how invincible Li Tianlan was, how many people could he kill? Moreover, he was now only a suspect, not a criminal. With this leeway, the possibility of Li Tianlan resisting was much smaller. In this way, the possibility of temporarily stabilizing Li Tianlan was the highest. Is Zhongzhou State really going to take action? Wang Jingxin could not believe it. He knew that if Li Tianlan really decided to resist, he alone could bring irreparable heavy losses to Zhongzhou State. Zhongzhou State might win, but it would not be easy. How could Li Huaqing not know the problem that even he knew? But now they actually dared to take action. They didn't even prepare anything in advance and directly took action. If this was to test Li Tianlan's final attitude, the risk was a little too big. The president said that it's better to have a short pain than a long one. Zhongzhou State does not allow any cancer to exist. The whole of Zhongzhou State should be healthy, positive, and united. Any cancer that threatens Zhongzhou State must be eliminated, even if it's scraping the bones to cure the poison or giving strong medicine to a serious disease. It's better to have a short pain than a long one. Wang Shengxiao sneered. Wang Jingxin nodded subconsciously and seemed to agree with Li Huaqing. But, wait. No. He carefully recalled what Wang Shengxiao said. Looking at the sneer on his face, his whole face suddenly changed. This is... Wang Jingxin sucked in a breath of cold air and said in disbelief. The drunkard has an ulterior motive. Wang Shengxiao's expression became more and more gloomy. He looked at the night sky outside the window and was silent for a long time. Then he sighed softly. A storm is coming. Chapter 722. Wang Jingxin's expression was stiff. He sat on the sofa and kept silent for a long time. A storm was coming, and dark clouds were hanging over the city. It was an eventful time. Combined with Li Huaqing's statement, no matter how dull his brain was, he now understood why Wan Qingyan and Ji Wenjiang had just met Wang Shengxiao here. The more he thought about it, the more meaningful it was. As the president of Zhongzhou State, his every move and every word had to be careful. It was no exaggeration to say that every word of a person like him had to be carefully thought out. Now that his statement could be conveyed to Wang Shengxiao's ears, it showed that the situation had spread widely enough, and he was not afraid that someone would misunderstand anything. When a person was not afraid of being misunderstood, there were often only two possibilities. One was that he had a clear conscience and was magnanimous, and the other was that it didn't matter if you misunderstood him, because it was the truth. The former could not exist in the treacherous and deceitful politics, and the latter. Wang Jingxin's body shook, and his face grew paler. The weather at the end of this summer was really cold, and the cold almost penetrated into the bone marrow. Shengxiao, what are you going to do? Wang Jingxin asked in a hoarse voice. Wang Shengxiao stood in front of the window, smoking silently, and did not look back. Let's take one step at a time. Even if there is any action, we will talk about it after tonight's matter is over. His voice was still unhurried, and he looked calm and composed, but there was a very obvious daze in his eyes. The eternal sword over Mormons was like an oppressive and suffocating shadow, which filled the glory of the Wang family of Beihai in the past hundreds of years, and made all the light completely dim. There was no dream in the world, and there was no light in the world. Sword Emperor was silent, and the Wang family of Beihai was in turmoil. Wang Xiaoyao, Wang Qinglei, and the Wang family of Beihai, which had always seemed to be very united, were torn into an ugly crack at a speed visible to the naked eye. Everything had been showing signs for a long time, but if there was no accident, all the focus would be on Dijiang. Dijiang broke through directly in the battle with Li Tianlan, and entered the invincible realm. But Li Tianlan's ambiguous attitude at that time gave Wang Qinglei a good excuse. Dijiang, who temporarily exercised the power of the patriarch, was now notorious within Beihai province. Almost everyone thought that it was because of his mistakes in decision-making that the Wang family of Beihai suffered great humiliation. And after losing the battle with Li Tianlan, everyone wanted to know what Li Tianlan said to Dijiang at that time. Dijiang said Li Tianlan said nothing. But everyone saw that scene. That was why no one believed Dijiang at all. Whether this was the truth or not was no longer important. What was important was whether Wang Qinglei was willing to believe it. Obviously, Wang Qinglei was not willing to believe it. Even if Dijiang's words could be recognized, he would find other crimes to oust Dijiang. A new expert of the invincible realm would enhance the strength of the Wang family of Beihai. But it was not a good thing for Wang Qinglei. He had already cooperated with Wang Xiaoyao. If the Wang family of Beihai only had Wang Xiaoyao as an expert of the invincible realm, then he could have the greatest advantage. Dijiang had been temporarily imprisoned. The internal differences in the Wang family of Beihai had been growing as to how to deal with him. Wang Qinglei insisted that Dijiang was no longer loyal to the Wang family of Beihai, and even reached some kind of deal with Li Tianlan, demanding that Dijiang be executed. Summer Solstice said that she believed in Dijiang's position, and did not deal with Dijiang. The two sides argued endlessly, and the rift was getting deeper and deeper. After Wang Shengxiao came back, Dijiang didn't even have the identity of acting patriarch anymore. Therefore, Wang Shengxiao naturally took over the nominal supreme power of the Wang family of Beihai, compared with Dijiang, who brought great humiliation to the Wang family of Beihai and even Beihai province. Many people were full of hope for Wang Shengxiao, the young master. How to deal with Dijiang was mostly up to him. And such a decision, no matter what it was, once it was made, it was equivalent to the complete break between Wang Tianzong and Wang Qinglei. Wang Shengxiao knew what it meant. The Wang family of Beihai, the greatest Wang family of Beihai, which had been standing at the peak for hundreds of years, had developed to the present. It had been out of control. This rift was the biggest internal trouble inside Beihai. In Li Huaqing's words, today's Zhongzhou state was a foreign invasion. There were countless thoughts in Wang Shengxiao's mind. But in the face of such a situation, he really didn't know what to do. That kind of confusion and pressure were all on him now, and he couldn't breathe at all. The only thing he remembered was what his father said to him when he had just become an adult. That day, Wang Tianzong called him to his study. The existing strength of the Wang family of Beihai, all the institutions, all the industries, and the future plans meant that everything of the Wang family of Beihai was in front of him. That day, Wang Tianzong calmly told him that these belonged to him now, and the future belonged to Wang Shengxiao. He would become the future leader of the Wang family of Beihai. On that day, Wang Shengxiao was not excited, fearful, excited, or doubtful. He had been prepared for it. But in the face of the Wang family of Beihai, he was still a little numb. Yes, numb. This was the only feeling he had at that time. That was the Wang family of Beihai in his father's hands, and in the face of all that, he didn't know what to do. Wang Tianzong told him that the only thing he needed to do was to become a qualified leader. How can I become a qualified leader? That year, on that day, the blood-like setting sun of Mount Dibing shone through the window into Wang Tianzong's study. Outside the window, the tide of Beihai rose and fell, and people came and went on Mount Dibing. In the early autumn sunshine, the Wang family of Beihai still had its own prosperity, which was extremely gorgeous. Wang Shengxiao, who was only 18 years old, had entered the fire-flaming realm. He stood in the study, looked at Wang Tianzong, and asked very seriously. Wang Tianzong looked out of the window for a long time. He turned around, and his eyes became extremely deep. Wang Shengxiao still clearly remembered his father's answer. It was his own answer. As a leader, you can do anything, you can make any decision, and you can say anything. But the most important thing is, no matter what situation you face, no matter what situation you are in, never, ever say that you don't know to the people you lead. Why? Because you are a leader. Don't say that you don't know. That's not the power of a leader. No matter what situation you are in, those who follow you will wait for your decision. Even if your decision is wrong, don't say that you don't know. Wang Shengxiao silently smoked a cigarette and let out a long breath. He didn't know if the decision he made tonight was right. No matter whether it was right or wrong, it was his decision. He didn't say that he didn't know. But at this moment, he suddenly wanted to know what others thought of his decision. He turned around and looked at Wang Jingxin. Do you think the two counselors should be here tonight? Wang Jingxin was stunned. Wang Shengxiao's eyes were not very sharp, but Wang Jingxin knew very well that he couldn't be vague about such a question. From our standpoint, we should. He hesitated and continued. But from the standpoint of Speaker Lin and we shouldn't. Yes. Wang Shengxiao sighed softly. But most of the time, we don't have so many choices. Li Tianlan is too dangerous, Wang Jingxin said slowly. Even when he mentioned this name now, he would feel a burst of fear in his heart. I don't think he dared to do this on impulse, but he knew what choice we should make. I have never underestimated Li Tianlan. Wang Shengxiao calmly said, the future heavenly son can be arrogant and supercilious, but he will never be stupid, let alone a fool. But just help him get through it? Wang Jingxin was a little unwilling. If it weren't for us, the giant group couldn't handle this incident. This time, if the Southeast group didn't take action, the giant group couldn't protect Li Tianlan at all, and it was even possible that it would lose itself. This time, the Southeast group came forward to support Li Tianlan. In Wang Jingxin's view, there was no doubt that it released a considerable degree of goodwill to the giant group, but it might not be able to get any return in the next game. It could even be said that it was doomed to get no return. This kind of loss-making business was the most unpleasant. Helping him is also helping ourselves. Wang Shengxiao shook his head. In many cases, we can't care about the enemy or ourselves. If we act rashly, it is likely to make things more troublesome, and even a disaster. At least for now, we and Li Tianlan have our own bottom lines and rules that we must protect. Some rules can't be trampled. His eyes were a little serious. From the perspective of the Dark World, there is no doubt that Tiannan is Li Tianlan's territory. Just like Beihai is the territory of the Wang family of Beihai, Li Tianlan doesn't like the mayor of Xianyuan City. He can kill Qi Mulan and his family. This is Li Tianlan's attitude. We support Li Tianlan, and this is also our way of expressing our attitude. Tonight, if we don't take action, Li Tianlan may be miserable, but he may not die. If Li Tianlan is punished for this matter, then next time, Zhongzhou State will naturally interfere with the candidate of Speaker of Beihai Province. If Li Tianlan's bottom line can be trampled, then what about the bottom line of Beihai Province that Li Tianlan has just swept? The bigger this matter is, the better. In any case, the Southeast Group must support Li Tianlan and express its attitude to Zhongzhou State. Li Tianlan can kill Qi Mulan and his family because of the position of mayor of Xianyuan City. If Zhongzhou State wants to touch Beihai in the future, what Li Tianlan can do, the Wang family of Beihai can also do, even more crazily. Wang Shengxiao's voice was cold, and his eyes were full of determination. Any rich and powerful family would have its own concept of territory, and such a concept was undoubtedly the most important in the Wang family of Beihai. The 160,000 square kilometers of Beihai Province, from any point of view, was the territory of the Wang family of Beihai, and the most important foundation of the Southeast Group. For hundreds of years, the Speaker of Beihai Province and the commander of the Beihai Corps were appointed by the Wang family of Beihai. Zhongzhou State had never intervened. But it didn't mean that they didn't want to intervene. They just didn't have the right opportunity. And now the opportunity came. The incident between Li Tianlan and mayor of Xianyuan City was the best opportunity to test. Wang Tianzong's whereabouts could make Zhongzhou state put down its scruples. Tiannan could be said to be Li Tianlan's territory. Li Tianlan's application for the establishment of Xianyuan City was just an application. From beginning to end, he didn't ask for any assistance from Zhongzhou state, so Xianyuan City was naturally his own city. Li Tianlan, as the founder of the city, didn't have the final say in such a mayor. Zhongzhou state didn't even ask Li Tianlan, and directly decided to push Wang Jingxin and Qi Mulan out. This was completely equivalent to slapping Li Tianlan in the face, and such a decision was passed. Li Tianlan naturally had to react. He had to react, and the tougher, the better. So after being slapped in the face at the meeting, Li Tianlan directly slapped back without any hesitation. He did violate the most basic rule of Zhongzhou state, but in Wang Shengxiao's view, it was the Zhongzhou state parliament that broke the rule first. The parliament destroyed the territorial consciousness of the rich and powerful. As the Wang family of Beihai with the most territorial concept, it couldn't be silent at this time. Li Tianlan built Xianyuan City by himself, but the candidate for the mayor didn't agree with him. From another point of view, would Zhongzhou state replace Beihai province, which had been guarded by the Wang family of Beihai for hundreds of years, once conditions allowed? The most important thing was that Zhongzhou state didn't have this power. Beihai province, Beihai itself. At the time of return, this was clearly written in the treaty. If the Southeast group didn't support Li Tianlan at this time, and let Xianyuan City elect a mayor with the will of Zhongzhou state, once such a dangerous precedent was set, they would naturally have more reasons to elect a speaker for Beihai who was also with the will of Zhongzhou state. This was the bottom line and principle of the Wang family of Beihai, and it couldn't be trampled. What the Wang family of Beihai had brought to Beihai province for hundreds of years was their own will and freedom. That glorious and prosperous era was built on this bottom line and principle. The Wang family of Beihai had to protect all this at all costs. With this determination, what was the point of supporting Li Tianlan at this time at the meeting? This was a warning from Li Tianlan to Zhongzhou state. Don't have any ideas about Tiannan. It was also a warning from the Wang family of Beihai to Zhongzhou state. Don't have any ideas about Beihai. And Li Huaqing and the Zhongzhou state parliament could react in such a short time. Naturally, they couldn't break the rules just for Li Tianlan. This might make them angry, or they might also attack Li Tianlan. But if it was just for this, they wouldn't react so fiercely, let alone so quickly. Most importantly, it was because of the Wang family of Beihai. The arrest of Li Tianlan could almost be said to be a warning to the Wang family of Beihai to see the consequences of Li Tianlan's violation of the will of Zhongzhou state. That was why the parliament acted so decisively, like a thunderbolt. The highest agency jointly issued an order in the fastest time, and in the toughest terms to arrest Li Tianlan. It was so tough that there was no room for negotiation. This was also a warning from the parliament to the Wang family of Beihai, with Li Tianlan as the center. The game between the Wang family of Beihai and Zhongzhou state had begun silently. And now it was the first round. The more it was like this, the more the Southeast group had to resist the pressure from the parliament and help Li Tianlan get through the current difficulties. In other words, even if Wang Jingxin was elected today and it was Wang Jingxin who was killed, and no matter how the Wang family of Beihai would retaliate in private in the future, at least in this meeting, they would still stand on Li Tianlan's side to maintain the overall stability, power and interests of the Wang family of Beihai. As long as they helped Li Tianlan get through it, if the parliament wanted to do something to Beihai in the future, Li Tianlan would definitely support the Wang family of Beihai. As for the reason, it was exactly the same as their support for Li Tianlan at this time. This was the most basic principle and bottom line of Beihai and Tiannan, which could not be broken. Even if the two sides were hostile, they could not allow the other side to break it. So in other words, as long as the Wang family of Beihai and Li Tianlan could withstand the pressure from Zhongzhou state in this first round, then in the future, no matter how fierce the game between the Wang family of Beihai and Zhongzhou state was, at least the highest power of the Wang family of Beihai and Beihai would not be shaken, and the internal personnel issues of Beihai would not be interfered with, unless Zhongzhou state could settle Beihai province and Tiannan province once and for all. Such a result could not put the Wang family of Beihai in an invincible position, but at least it would not be at the mercy of others when it was extremely weak. This was Li Tianlan's reward. At the critical moment, in order to maintain his interests in Tiannan, Li Tianlan would naturally voice his support for the Wang family of Beihai, but that was all. As for the other content of the game between Beihai and Zhongzhou State, he would definitely stay out of it, unless Li Tianlan's Xianyuan city could also develop to a scale similar to Beihai province. But even such a return was rich enough for the current Wang family of Beihai. This was definitely not the situation that Zhongzhou State wanted to see. So everything that happened tonight was just a beginning. And just a beginning. No matter what the result of the meeting was. Wang Shengshao lit the second cigarette again. He inhaled half of it. In the lingering smoke, his voice was extremely heavy and slow. This matter will not be so easy to solve. Wang Jingxin took a deep breath and said dryly, "Can you stand it?" "Maybe, maybe not. It depends on this meeting," Wang Shengshao said slowly. "Since this kind of thing has been moved to the table, we can't take the vote. If we really vote, no matter what the result is, the mess will only be bigger. This is trouble for us, and it is not easy for the parliament either. The result of the meeting is just a beginning. In the next few months or even a year, I am afraid that Zhongzhou State will be very lively. The specific result may not come out until then." Wang Jingxin narrowed his eyes and gradually calmed down. "What do you need me to do?" Looking at Wang Shengshao, he slowly opened his mouth and said in a very sincere tone. As a member of the Wang family of Beihai and one of the core figures, it could be foreseen that once the Wang family of Beihai failed in this game, he would not end well. Even if it was just for himself, he wanted to do something. It has not come to that for the time being. Wang Shengshao shook his head. "After you go back, you have to maintain the stability of Jiangxia. That is the most important thing. The stability of Jiangxia. As long as he and Su Xinghe no longer fought with Zhou Yuanshan, Jiangxia would be very stable. They were really going to join hands. At least during the first game, the two sides would really join hands." Wang Jingxin understood what Wang Shengshao meant and nodded. "I'll leave now." He stood up. Wang Shengshao reached out and shook hands with him. Wang Jingxin took a deep look at him. "It's okay." Wang Shengshao laughed. His smile was extremely deep and his eyes were extremely firm. "It will all pass." Chapter 723. The sky gradually brightened. When Horsewoman opened her eyes with some tiredness, it was already morning in Prince Yang's mansion. The hazy morning light was reflected in the flowers and plants of the mansion. Horsewoman stood at the door, quietly feeling the tranquility and beauty, and did not move for a long time. The servants in the mansion had begun to get up and busy. Some began to prepare breakfast, some began to trim flowers and plants, and some were cleaning the lawn. Horsewoman stood for a long time, subconsciously looking next door. The room next door was quiet. The antique door was closed and there was light inside. If you listened carefully, Horsewoman could feel the soft, soothing, and almost elegant quiet breathing inside. That was Qin Weibai's room. When Qin Weibai did not get up, Horsewoman suddenly did not know what to do. As the supermaster of Samsara Palace, after the end of the chaos in Eastern Europe, Flaming Fire, the strongest of the 12 supermasters, formally drew a clear line with Qin Weibai and transferred Horsewoman here to take over Flaming Fire's position. However, until now, Horsewoman was not very used to this identity. She was often at a loss and did not know what to do. When she did not know what to do, she would think about what Flaming Fire should do in her position. This was Horsewoman's own secret. Flaming Fire in Zhongzhou State, she was usually sleeping at this time. In foreign countries such as Eastern Europe or other countries, if the air quality was good, Flaming Fire would get up in the middle of the night to collect some fresh morning dew for Qin Weibai, filter it into the most natural pure water, and make tea, soup, and coffee. Qin Weibai always had high requirements for the quality of water. When she finished making breakfast, it was almost the time when Qin Weibai got up. Yozhou's industrial pollution was very serious, so morning dew could not be collected. In fact, Qin Weibai's daily water in Zhongzhou State was airlifted from other countries. As for breakfast, someone was busy now. Horsewoman sat down at the door and stared at the garden in front of her. Suddenly, she did not want to do anything and just stared blankly. The The proceedings, contents, and results of yesterday's parliamentary meeting were immediately transmitted through a special channel to the military counselor, and then to the Prince of Yang's residence. Even the matter of the Qi family being exterminated by Li Tianlan was transmitted to the Prince of Yang's residence. After receiving the news, Qin Weibai reacted strangely, because she did not respond at all. Such a big thing did not affect her mood at all. Now listening to the quiet and elegant breathing next door, Horsewoman suddenly understood that Qin Weibai really did not take this matter to heart. The knight sighed softly. He suddenly missed the blissful days when he was carrying out missions all over the world. Without missions he could wander aimlessly. The sound of hurried footsteps could be heard. A butler in his 50s jogged to Horsewoman's side and handed her a medal. He said softly, "Sir, there's someone waiting outside. She wants to visit Chairman Qin." The exquisite medal was silvery white and sparkled in the rising sun. The knight's eyes suddenly narrowed. He took a deep look at the medal in his hand and asked, "Is she still waiting?" It was her. The knight was certain of the young man's identity, just by looking at him. "Yes." The butler's voice became more respectful. "She's been here for about 2 hours. She's been standing outside the door the whole time. She only asked to bring this medal in and said that she wanted to visit you." 2 hours. Horsewoman muttered to herself. She calculated the time since the destruction of the Qi family, and raised her eyebrows slightly. She touched the medal in her hand and stood up. She came to the door of Qin Weibai's room and knocked on the door. With a strong penetrating voice, she deliberately slowed down and sounded very soft. "Boss." The soft breathing inside the door paused for a moment, and then there was a hum sound. She was extremely lazy and delicate. "What's the matter?" Horsewoman hesitated. Qin Weibai's voice continued, "Come in and talk." The butler lowered her head and did not dare to look into the room. Horsewoman pushed the door open and walked in. Qin Weibai, wearing a moon-white silk nightgown, sat on the bed and was lazily tidying her hair. Horsewoman handed over the medal in her hand and whispered, "She's outside the door. She wants to see you." Qin Weibai looked at the medal and was silent for a moment. Then she whispered, "She's slow. It said that she has been standing outside the door for 2 hours." Horsewoman whispered, 2 hours. For the person outside the door, this was undoubtedly a great sincerity. Qin Weibai shook her head. "That's too slow." Horsewoman said no more, quietly waiting for Qin Weibai's decision. Qin Weibai touched the medal in her hand and handed it to Horsewoman. She whispered, "Invite her in. I'll wait for her here." Horsewoman nodded and turned to go out with the medal. She walked to the door with the butler. The defense of Prince Yang's mansion had been strengthened after the raid on the hospital. Many elites in plain clothes had moved from the dark to the light. The 2 motionless guards at the door were retired veterans of Zhongzhou's eastern deity, Swords Brigade. They were in the ice-condensing realm. Under the guard of these elites, the entire Prince Yang's mansion appeared more and more awe-inspiring. A figure, almost shrouded in clouds and mist, stood quietly in front of the Prince Yang's mansion. Her attire seemed very ordinary, but it was also extremely gorgeous. The rising sun shone on her body. She stood there quietly, motionless, but no one could see her appearance clearly. Calm, dignified, generous, and patient. Like a shadow, she quietly stood there, restraining all of her elegance and beauty. However, she still possessed a charm that could not be ignored. Horsewoman hurriedly walked out of the door. Seeing the figure standing outside, she quickly walked a few steps forward and returned the medal in her hand. Bowing slightly, she softly said, "Madam, please follow me." The figure in the clouds and mist smiled lightly. She did not accept the medal, only saying softly, "Consider it a small gift for Chief Qin. In the future, if Chief Qin has any needs, you can bring this medal to me at any time. If I can help you, I won't refuse." Horsewoman's expression suddenly froze. For a moment, she was somewhat hesitant. Disregarding the value of this medal, just the material it was made of platinum. It was indeed a small gift to give away. However, the contents of the woman's words carried great weight. It was so heavy that even a horsewoman would not dare to rashly accept it. She lowered her head, glancing at the medal in her hand. Under the sunlight, The brilliance of the metal made of platinum burned brightly. Extremely exquisite and aesthetically pleasing patterns were engraved on the metal. They were clearly layered, ancient, exquisite, vast, and clear. The countless patterns on the metal outlined the sea and the vault of heaven. The vault of heaven and the sea. This was the badge of the Wang family of Beihai. Within the Wang family of Beihai, those who could carry the metal of the vault of heaven and the sea with them were all core figures of the Wang family of Beihai. Every metal was recorded in detail within Beihai and could not be counterfeited. Different people had the same metal, but at the bottom of the metal, there was a small character engraved to distinguish the identity of the metal holder. At the bottom of this metal, there was only a simple small character engraved. Solstice. The hostess of the Wang family of Beihai, summer solstice. No one expected that when the internal situation of Zhongzhou state became more and more delicate, summer solstice, who was supposed to preside over the overall situation in Mount Dibing, would enter Yuzhou in an extremely low-key manner and visit Qin Weibai. Moreover, she waited for 2 hours. The most important thing was that summer solstice gave this medal to Qin Weibai. It was such an obvious kindness. Why? As soon as they met, she gave such a meaningful small gift. What did she want from Qin Weibai? Horsewoman's thoughts kept flashing in her mind. She did not accept the medal, nor did she refuse. She just said calmly, "Madam, please." Summer solstice, who seemed to be shrouded in clouds and mist, smiled softly and walked into the mansion. Qin Weibai had changed into a loose set of home clothes. She had washed up simply and her hair was tied up casually. After a night's rest, the bedroom was filled with a natural and rich fragrance that could hardly be dispersed. She opened the window and let the outside air flow in. She sat on the sofa and made a pot of tea with a serious look on her face. When summer solstice walked in, the fragrance in the room was mixed with the fragrance of tea. It was faint and dispersed by the morning air, making people's sense of smell extremely soft. Summer solstice looked at Qin Weibai's expression and sighed softly. She was indeed an extremely perfect woman. Her beauty could cause the downfall of empires and cities. It would not be an exaggeration to use all the adjectives to describe her. Any man, even if it was a future heaven's chosen one, would be extremely lucky to have her. Or even luck. A complicated look flashed in summer solstice's eyes, but her voice was still steady and soft. "Hello, Boss Qin." She was very humble, and even used honorifics. "Hello, Mrs. Wang." Qin Weibai stood up and took the initiative to reach out her hand. Summer solstice didn't feel anything, but Qin Weibai's arm stiffened. Summer solstice shook hands with her, and the two sat face to face on the sofa. The knight retreated without batting an eyelid. "I haven't seen you for a while, Boss Qin. You are still elegant." Summer solstice chuckled softly. The first time they met was when the maneuver of the two academies had just begun. At that time, Qin Weibai directly went to Mount Dibing with an extremely tough attitude. Naturally, the conversation was not friendly. "Madam, you look a little haggard." Qin Weibai said softly and poured a cup of tea for summer solstice. Summer solstice took it and said thank you. "When did you come?" Qin Weibai asked. "I came here as soon as I heard that the Qi family was destroyed." Summer solstice held the teacup and looked at Qin Weibai. Her tone was very calm. "I should have come earlier, but I couldn't find a chance. This time, it's an opportunity. Tianlan destroyed the Qi family and committed a big taboo. But the action of Zhongzhou state is also challenging the bottom line of Tianlan and Beihai. In this matter, our position should be the same. With the basis of cooperation, our meeting will not seem abrupt, right?" "Cooperation?" Qin Weibai raised her eyebrows slightly. "Cooperation?" Summer solstice's voice was calm. Qin Weibai was silent for a while and then said lightly, "First, I don't think it's cooperation this time. Tiannan and Beihai have the same position. It's just that each has a bottom line that needs to be guarded. This is at best a tacit understanding. I don't see any possibility of cooperation except for this matter. Second, even if you want to cooperate, you should go to Tianlan, not me. But I don't think he will agree to this kind of cooperation. You help him this time, and he will also help you guard something. But this is just a tacit understanding. We help each other only to help ourselves. The conditions for cooperation are not established." She looked at summer solstice with soft eyes. After the chaos in Eastern Europe, the perfect woman, who was more and more restrained and willing to stand behind the scenes, said softly, "Madam, you've found the wrong person." "No." Summer solstice shook her head with a smile. "It's the right and best candidate to find you. As you said, in this matter, there is only a tacit understanding between Beihai and Li Tianlan, not the basis of cooperation. We don't expect Li Tianlan to help us with anything. In fact, he will develop Beihai next and won't have the spare power to participate in the game of Zhongzhou State. This time, I'm not here to cooperate with Li Tianlan, but you, Boss Qin. Or this can be regarded as a deal. You want me to betray Tianlan." Qin Weibai's voice was a little cold. "It's not so serious. We each take what we need. What Boss Qin has been doing is helping Li Tianlan, hasn't it?" Summer Solstice said calmly. "Beihai is so big. There must be something you need. I'm here this time to get an answer from you. Boss Qin, you can also put forward your own conditions. As long as both of us think it's appropriate, the deal is made." She looked at Qin Weibai and smiled. "Li Tianlan and Beihai have reached an agreement. Next, we will give Li Tianlan a lot of things. But there are always some things that are of great help to Li Tianlan, but he doesn't know them. Similarly, you can't tell him for the time being. I can give them to you. How would I know what Tianlan doesn't know?" Qin Weibai said calmly. "The night Li Tianlan stepped on Mount Dibbing, I saw the real 13-story building. No, in other words, I saw the real Xianyuan sword." Summer Solstice looked into Qin Weibai's eyes. "With the intelligence system of the Samsara Palace, is there anything you don't know now?" Qin Weibai was silent and did not speak for a long time. Summer Solstice was very patient and waited quietly, waiting for Qin Weibai to make a price. With the current situation of the Wang family of Beihai, she came here today. Qin Weibai must know what the answer she wanted was. Now it depended on whether Qin Weibai's price was acceptable to her. Qin Weibai lowered her head. At this moment, no one could see the fear and hesitation in her eyes. "I do have what I want." She took a sip of tea and said softly, "But the answer I give you may not be what you want. Are you sure you want to make a deal with me?" "What do you mean?" Summer Solstice frowned slightly. "Since you've seen the Xianyuan sword, you should know that Mormon's sword shouldn't have existed for me. Don't you understand?" Qin Weibai glanced at Summer Solstice. Summer Solstice's face changed slightly. Qin Weibai said no more and quietly enjoyed the tea. "In this case, Boss Qin, do you have nothing to teach me?" After a long time, Summer Solstice asked with a dignified face. "Yes." Qin Weibai's voice was concise and powerful. Summer Solstice took a deep breath and asked faintly, "What do you want?" "The body of the god of war." The hesitation in Qin Weibai's eyes disappeared completely, and she gave her answer in an unquestionable tone. The body of the god of war. Even in the Wang family of Beihai, this was the core secret. Summer Solstice was not surprised. She just looked at Qin Weibai and whispered, "You really know?" Qin Weibai put down the teacup. "Will you give it to me or not?" Summer Solstice hesitated, which was rare. Qin Weibai did not urge her. She just reminded her. The Wang family of Beihai is in danger now. It's time to put down some ambitions and make some concessions after standing at the peak for hundreds of years. In fact, if the Li family had not appeared in Zhongzhou State, the Wang family of Beihai would not have been so glorious. You need to pay back what you owe the Li family. It's not good for you to be too stubborn. What if I don't give it to you? What's the worst result? Summer Solstice suddenly asked. She shook her head and looked straight at Qin Weibai. I don't want to listen to the analysis. I want to hear the result. I don't know the result. But at present, even if I know part of the result, it's definitely not what you want to hear. Qin Weibai said. Summer Solstice's face turned pale for a moment. She could see that Qin Weibai was telling the truth. The so-called result was not what Summer Solstice wanted to hear, nor was it what Qin Weibai wanted to see. How could this be? Summer Solstice muttered to herself. This is your own choice. Qin Weibai said faintly. Will you give me the body of the god of war? Obviously, if she couldn't get what she wanted, this conversation would end here. I can give you half at most. Summer Solstice gritted her teeth and said, 1. Qin Weibai's tone was unquestionable. Half of the body of the god of war is enough. Since you know about the body of the god of war, you should know that the Wang family of Beihai currently only has one. And it's not a complete product. The Wang family of Beihai is doing the final research on it. Once it succeeds, even if Li Tianlan breaks through and becomes a heavenly son in the future, with this thing in hand, he can survive in most cases. What else do you want? Summer Solstice's voice was a little weak. I really need one, Qin Weibai said seriously. Half at most. More than this share is also unbearable for me. I'd rather terminate this transaction, Summer Solstice said with some tiredness and determination. Are you going to give your half to Wang Tianzong? Qin Weibai suddenly said. Summer Solstice's face changed and she did not speak. The thing that could save Li Tianlan's life after he became a heavenly son could naturally save the life of the current heavenly son. The only body of the god of war in the Wang family of Beihai was equivalent to 2 extra lives for the heavenly son. Wang Tianzong could use half of it this time. Once he recovered, even if Li Tianlan was at the same level as him in the future, with the other half of the body of the god of war, the Wang family of Beihai had enough confidence to suppress Li Tianlan. But now Wang Tianzong used half of it, and had to give the other half to Li Tianlan. Li Tianlan was not injured. Once he broke through and became a heavenly son in the future, with half of the body of the god of war in hand, Emperor Dong's palace would have the confidence to face the Wang family of Beihai. Summer Solstice's agreeing to this transaction meant that she had made a major concession on the future of Emperor Dong's palace, which was not what she wanted to see. But she had no choice. Zhongzhou State's intention to target the Wang family of Beihai had become more and more obvious. Li Tianlan had destroyed the Qi family for the first time. Summer Solstice was not optimistic about what would happen next. Asking Qin Weibai was the most helpless way. Qin Weibai might not be able to help them win the game, but at least she knew what they should not do. This was undoubtedly the most important thing. Okay. Qin Weibai thought for a long time and nodded slowly. When can it be sent here? This afternoon at the latest, Summer Solstice said slowly. Then stay here for lunch, madam. Have a taste of my cooking, Qin Weibai said with a smile. Summer Solstice narrowed her eyes and said nothing. I can't tell you too much before I get the body of the god of war, Qin Weibai said blandly. But at least I can tell you one thing. Compared to the worst result, everything is just the beginning. You should pay more attention to Zhongzhou State. Zhongzhou State. Summer Solstice smiled bitterly. She wanted to pay attention to Zhongzhou State, but the Wang family of Beihai was also in turmoil. Don't underestimate Wang Tianzong, Qin Weibai said softly. He is your man. Even if there are 1 or 2 clowns in the Wang family of Beihai, even if he is seriously injured now, the situation is still under his control as long as he is not dead. Summer Solstice's spirit suddenly shook. She looked up at Qin Weibai and said, What do you mean? Qin Weibai smiled and did not answer the question. She just said softly, What do you want to eat at noon, madam? You're tuning in to the Li Mei's Wuxia Whispers YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.